Chapter 36-28. TSK, by then. There will be a lot of people paying attention to Mysterious Fairy. Yiqing Luo's eyebrows curved into a smile, looking extremely lively and alluring. Using another method to become famous is not a bad idea. Xiao Yinyan's expression sunk slightly, his brows wrinkled tightly. His gaze was deep as he stared at Xiao Yulu, as without embroiling city's mysterious fairy, your every word and action represents without embroiling city. Since you want to make this bet with Ah Luo, then under the condition that Ah Luo doesn't violate the rules, you cannot use your own safety to threaten Ah Luo. Otherwise, no matter what happens to Ah Luo, as mysterious fairy, you have to bear the responsibility. Xiao Yulu's eyes were bloodshot. She snorted loudly and flung her sleeves down heavily. Turning around, she led the guards of the large sect and left the treasure-gathering hall. After the 10 over of them left the narrow hall, fresh air finally returned to the lobby of the treasures-gathering hall. Miss D. Behind her, a lady's careful call was heard. Yiqing Luo then remembered that there were 3 other ladies hiding behind her. She immediately moved away and turned around to look behind her. She saw one of the ladies staring at her without blinking. Miss D. You said you will put the beauty ointment in the auction, is that true? Yiqing Luo nodded. Of course it's true. But you saw Mysterious Fairy's attitude earlier. If she's not willing to give you the beauty ointment, I'm afraid you won't be able to bid for it. As the eldest daughter of the Qiao family, the #1 aristocratic family in the Earth realm. So the mysterious fairy who came out from Linglong Palace. Xiao Yulu had no lack of crystal stones. To Xiao Yulu, as long as the problem could be solved with crystal stones, then it wasn't a problem. So as long as Xiao Yulu really wanted the beauty ointment, it was enough to exchange for 10 bottles of beauty ointment. The ladies looked at each other in dismay, their expressions were a little ugly. Yiqing Luo looked at them with a smile. Thank you for your support for the beauty ointment. I heard that you have a bunch of sisters waiting for the news of the beauty ointment, right? Yes. The young mistresses nodded. Yiqing Luo pondered deeply for a moment and said, how about this, after the auction ends, I'll strive to refine a few more bottles of beauty ointment and by then we'll auction it off at the treasure-gathering hall. All of you can come and take part. The eyes of the ladies lit up. Really? Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. After discussing a few more sentences about the beautifying cream with the ladies, Yiqing Luo sent them off. The treasures exchange hall fell into a rare moment of silence. Xiao Yinyan poured a cup of warm tea and passed it to Yiqing Luo, telling Princess Yulu about the hidden card of the treasure gathering so early. Aren't you worried that she will come up with some countermeasures to counter the beauty cream? On the contrary, I'm afraid that she won't target me. Yiqing Luo smiled evilly. Xiao Yinyan raised an eyebrow. Does that mean you already had a plan? Yiqing Luo touched her chin. Although towards Mysterious Maiden, I don't understand her as well as you, but I'm very clear that she's not someone who can swallow her grievances. She had suffered quite a lot of grievances and suffered quite a lot from me, so how would she possibly let me take part in the auction smoothly? Don't tell me, she will really make a move on you before the auction? Xiao Yinyan's expression congealed. Chapter 36-29. What will she do? Xiao Yinyan asked in puzzlement. Why did it feel like Di Luo knew his sister better than him? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and smiled meaningfully. No matter what she will do, I am sure she will use a very stupid way to deal with the treasure exchange. Xiao Yinyan. Actually, it was not that Xiao Yulu was stupid, but Di Luo was too smart. But looking at Yiqing Luo's calm and composed look, she obviously had a plan in her heart. He didn't need to worry about her. As expected. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. Xiao Yulu made her move. The beauty cream, under the publicity of the blood mercenary group, had been treated as a peerless treasure by countless young ladies. Furthermore, during the day at the treasures gathering exchange, the three young ladies had exaggerated the matters of the treasures gathering exchange to the group of young ladies. As a result, the group of young ladies yearned for the skin beautifying cream even more. If the beauty cream was really put up for auction, the price would absolutely be heaven-defying. It could be said that the treasure exchange hall could really use the beauty cream to fight a beautiful turnaround. So, Xiao Yulu wanted the beauty cream but wasn't willing to lose the bet with Yiqing Luo. Then she could only let Yiqing Luo's beauty cream lose its luster before the auction. Hence, it took almost half a day's time. Which was the afternoon after Xiao Yulu left the treasure exchange hall. The entire without embroiling city started to spread a rumor. The treasure-gathering trading company used the reputation of the bloody mercenary group to purposely promote the so-called beauty ointment. They wanted to exaggerate the effects of the beauty ointment before the auction to trick the citizens into bidding for the beauty ointment at a high price. This rumor didn't fly for long. Another rumor continued to spread. What? You want to ask why the treasure exchange hall did this? And even borrowed the reputation of the blood mercenary group to promote the beauty cream? Weren't they afraid that the blood mercenary group would blame them and directly destroy their treasure exchange hall? No, no, no. How could the treasure exchange hall be afraid? The treasure exchange hall did this entirely to obtain the honor of the best auction hall in the auction. Because the lady named Di Luo who took out the beauty cream had a bet with Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden. She didn't want to lose, so she resorted to all means. Oh. You want to ask, what evidence is there to prove that the Treasures Exchange Hall is lying to the citizens? Because 5 years ago, the Treasures Exchange Hall had used the same method. You don't believe me? Ask any elderly citizen in Without Embroiling City, and they would all know what sort of infuriating incident had happened in the Treasure Exchange Hall that had been all the rage for a while 5 years ago. The more the rumors spread, the more exaggerated they became and the harder it was to listen to them. In the end, it turned into a treasure-gathering transaction. They wanted to use the old tricks from 5 years ago to deceive the citizens and ignore the strict fairness of the auction. When these rumors and slanders reached Pei Sheng's ears, Pei Sheng was stunned. It all happened that night. At that time, Pei Sheng was going to the river to fetch water. She was stopped by a few women and asked about the beauty cream. Only then did she hear the news. Especially when it involved what happened 5 years ago. Pei Sheng's expression changed immediately. He threw down the pole that was used to fetch water and rushed back to the treasure exchange hall. This action. It was also spread by some people. As a result, Pei Sheng flew into a rage out of humiliation and tacitly admitted the truth of the rumor. Chapter 3630. Pei Sheng returned to treasure gathering. Yiqing Luo was by the counter, setting up some small items. Seeing that Pei Sheng had returned, she looked up and glanced at him. Didn't you go to fetch water for Zishi to wipe her body? Why did he come back empty-handed? Why do you look so pale? Have you heard the rumors that the citizens outside are discussing? Pei Sheng thought about how the citizens around him, who had been smiling at him in a friendly manner, were now pointing at him with looks of disgust and disgust. Anger surged in his heart. I heard. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent. Do you mind? Of course I care. Pei Sheng clenched his fists. 5 years ago, it was clearly the Zhongcheng trading house that framed Gathering Bao and the trading house. Gathering Bao has never lied to anyone. It's useless for you to say these words to me. Yiqing Luo put down the item in her hands as she looked at him calmly. Of course, even if you run out to explain to anyone, it's useless. Pei Sheng's anxiety and Yiqing Luo's calmness formed a sharp contrast. Facing Yiqing Luo's calm and indifferent attitude, Pei Sheng's clenched fists loosened, but he couldn't help but clench them again. He repeated this a few times. His entire person seemed to lose all strength, and he slumped down in dejection. Ah Luo. Treasure conglomeration has finally taken a turn for the better with great difficulty. The day after tomorrow is the grand auction, but now there's such a rumor. It was not just Treasure Gathering's reputation that was tarnished. Most importantly, Luo will lose the bet. If he really handed Luo over to Princess Yu Lu and let her do whatever she wanted with him, Princess Yu Lu would never let Luo leave alive. I'm sorry. Luo, it's all because of me, it's all because of my incompetence. Pei Sheng sat down on the chair weakly, covering his face with his hands. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she looked at Pei Sheng quietly for some time before she spoke out calmly, "This isn't your fault, the person Xiao Yulu is targeting is me." She paused and walked out from behind the counter. "However, you're right about one thing. Sheng, you are indeed incompetent." Her straightforwardness caused Pei Sheng's body to stiffen. Yiqing Luo continued, "If you really want to protect the Treasures Exchange Hall, if you really want to protect Zishi, then you should straighten your back, and not be at a loss of what to do the minute something happens, blaming yourself in various ways, then not doing anything at all, just immersing yourself in your decadent emotions." Pei Sheng's hand slowly slid down from his face. His handsome face was filled with pain. His eyes were also a little red. Yiqing Luo walked to his side, her gaze was still as calm as usual. "Sheng, you must remember that you are a man with an indomitable spirit. You must use your own two hands to create unlimited possibilities. So what if Xiao Yulu spreads rumors? So what if they damaged the reputation of the Treasures Trading House? Don't tell me that if you continue to wallow in self-pity, the problem will be solved?" Yiqing Luo's successive explosive strikes made Pei Sheng's entire person stun till he turned stiff. He looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Following Yiqing Luo's words, his reddened eyes started to change. His stiff body slowly moved. A pair of pure black bright eyes seemed to be filled with starlight. He clenched his fists as he stood up abruptly. Luo, I'm sorry. I know." Looking at the man straightened his back, his tall figure appeared extremely skinny. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. The reason why Pei Sheng's character was weak. It was also because of the environment. Chapter 36-31. He had grown up in the trading house since young. He personally witnessed the changes in the trading house. He personally witnessed his own kin drowning themselves in the river. And after taking over the trading house, he became the target of exclusion by the entire city. This had a huge impact on Pei Sheng. What Yiqing Luo needed to do was to change him from the bottom of his heart. From the fact that Pei Sheng wasn't affected by the Spirit Devourer formation. Pei Sheng must have some secret on him. If Pei Sheng could dig it out, this would be a good step forward for his future. What should I do? Pei Sheng regained his spirits as he looked at Yiqing Luo. After the auction is over, I will have to leave without embroiling city. Sheng, I can't help you with everything. Yiqing Luo patted his shoulder. Pei Sheng was stunned. He wanted to ask Yiqing Luo to stay. But he was very clear in his heart. Yiqing Luo absolutely could not stay in without embroiling city. She still had to look for her fiancé. Pei Sheng took a deep breath and calmed his thoughts. There's still one more day before the auction. We have to change everyone's opinion of treasure gathering by tomorrow. Especially, we have to make the citizens believe in the effects of the beauty ointment again. Yiqing Luo nodded. What do you intend to do? Seeing that Yiqing Luo had acknowledged what he said, Pei Sheng's apprehensive heart relaxed. Do you have any extra beauty cream? There's still one bottle. That was refined previously to be used for publicity. Pei Sheng said, tomorrow, I will use the topic of Treasure Gathering Hall to explain the rumors and invite the citizens to the Treasure Gathering Hall. Later I'll go find out that the ugly lady in Without Embroiling City will come over to test the effect of the beauty cream in public. This was equivalent to holding a press conference in the modern society. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly, apparently very satisfied with Pei Sheng's suggestion. Seeing Yiqing Luo smile, Pei Sheng's tensed body then relaxed as he asked apprehensively, "Ah Luo, is it alright if I do this?" His cautious look was like a student who was nervous and perturbed in front of the headmaster. Yiqing Luo nodded with a face full of smiles. "No problem, let's do this." Pei Sheng's tensed face also relaxed. He thought of a way to deal with it. Pei Sheng went to handle this matter. Yiqing Luo had no intention to interfere in this matter. After Pei Sheng left, sitting by the side, the sloppy old Lai then looked at Yiqing Luo. "You had long guessed that Xiao Yulu would use this method to target you?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "You can say so. After all, this was the best solution. As long as it involved the incident from 5 years ago, not only would it make the citizens lose their yearning for the beauty cream, but it would also smear Zhu Bao's name and make it unable to raise its head. Judging from your conversation with that kid, you're going to leave without embroiling city after the auction?" Old Lai stroked his messy beard. "Are you going to look for His Majesty the Sovereign?" When Dizun was mentioned, Old Lai intentionally widened his eyes, staring intently at Yiqing Luo's expression. The last time Yiqing Luo returned from the West Cliff Mountain, for some reason, he was in low spirits. He guessed that it might have something to do with Dizun. Now, he was here to test the waters. However, to Old Lai's disappointment. Chapter 36-32. Shadowless City, isn't like without embroiling city. Old Lai retracted his gaze and leaned back in his chair. "If you go to Shadowless City without me, you might not even be able to enter the city gates." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Shadowless City is so cruel?" Old Lai nodded seriously. "You'll know when you get there, I'm absolutely not exaggerating." Yiqing Luo glanced at the serious Old Lai and rolled her eyes. "Just say it if you want to follow me to Shadowless City." "Alright, I want to follow you to Shadowless City." Old Lai continued to put on a serious face. Yiqing Luo. So direct. "Then let's go together." In this unfamiliar place, with a madman from the Hell Palace by her side, at least she wouldn't provoke any retards who came to make their presence known. She only wanted to go to Shadowless City to see Dmo Xian, to confirm his physical condition. She really couldn't be bothered with other retards who came to find trouble. Most importantly, since the leader of the bloody mercenaries mentioned that she had never seen her in the Earth Realm, Yiqing Luo felt that she had to create an identity in the Earth Realm. Otherwise, if someone found out that she wasn't from the Earth Realm, she didn't have the qualification to ascend to the Earth Realm to prove that she was a cultivator from the lower realm. It would be easy for others to suspect her background. The next morning, the news of the press conference held by the Treasure Exchange Hall. Oh no, the Treasure Exchange Hall hosting the citizens of Without Embroiling City to explain the beauty ointment matter spread throughout the streets and alleys of Without Embroiling City. This popularity, compared to the publicity of the beauty ointment by the bloody mercenaries, the popularity created was several times more. Previously, only a bunch of ladies knew about the beauty ointment. But now, after Xiao Yulu's actions, basically, as long as one was in Without Embroiling City, they all knew about the beauty ointment and the Treasure Exchange Hall. The next day, everyone's topic was beauty ointment, Treasure Exchange Hall, etc. Listening to the streets and alleys, from 80 old people to 5-year-old children were discussing these topics. Even those who came to Without Embroiling City to participate in the auction were attracted by this topic. Xiao Yulu stood in the crowd, her face under the black veil was very ugly. She suddenly felt that she had just shot herself in the foot. Why did it seem like it was helping treasure gathering and facial beautifying ointment set off a wave of popularity? Is the beautifying cream really that magical? With just a touch, your skin will become smooth and supple, without pimples or spots. I don't think that's possible. Didn't you say that Zhu Bao wanted to use the strategy from 5 years ago to deliberately make the skin beautifying cream look so magical to trick us into bidding at a high price? How can there be such a magical thing in this world? This is definitely just a publicity stunt. Treasure Gathering wants to give an explanation for the skin beautifying ointment. Why are we guessing here? Why don't we go and take a look? Let's go and see how Treasure Gathering Guild is going to explain itself. The citizens swarmed towards the direction of the treasure exchange hall. Among the crowd, Xiao Yulu's face was dark. Her eyes were vicious like a venomous snake. Go! Let's go over and take a look. This empress wants to see how treasure gathering can resolve the matter regarding the beautifying ointment. She spat out these words through gritted teeth, her tone extremely cold. At the entrance of the treasure's trading house. At this moment, the 3 inner and 3 outer layers were filled with people. Chapter 36-33. At the main entrance of the treasure exchange hall, Yiqing Luo specially used bamboo poles to form a square with the treasure exchange hall's entrance as the distance. Within the boundary of the bamboo poles, there was a table and 2 chairs. The citizens stood outside the boundary of the bamboo poles and were not allowed to get close to it. Of course, when this bunch of citizens went crazy, they totally wouldn't care about the bamboo poles or not. So Yiqing Luo specially placed a chair at the corner of the bamboo poles. Lao Lai just sat there like a thorn in his flesh. With old Lai watching. The citizens were obviously more well-behaved. Originally they were still talking about yesterday's rumors, but they were all stuck in their throats. They were afraid that if they angered the Hell Palace's senior, they would be dealt with. The appointed time came. The treasure exchange's door opened. Pei Xing walked out from the treasure exchange. Following closely behind was Yiqing Luo and Xiao Yinyan. The 3 of them walked to the table and stood still. Pei Xing started to speak. The rough content was that yesterday the blood mercenary group used the beauty cream and felt that it was useful, so they praised it. But when some people heard it, they were afraid that it would affect their own benefits, so they intentionally spread rumors, trying to ruin the beauty cream and treasure exchange's reputation. Of course, Pei Xing's words were very tactful. And he didn't clearly mention who the people with intentions was referring to. But the surrounding citizens, from his words, were able to clearly match that people with intentions with Xiao Yulu. Without embroiling city's mysterious maiden. Of course, everyone was well aware of it. But the other party was after all without embroiling city's mysterious maiden, so no one dared to say her name. At this time, there would naturally be different voices. For example, there's no smoke without fire, why are you saying it's a rumor? Don't tell me the beauty cream really has such a shocking effect. For example, don't say anything about ruining the treasure exchange's reputation. Ever since 5 years ago when the treasure exchange cheated its customers, it no longer has any so-called reputation. And so on, and so on. After Pei Xing was awakened by Yiqing Luo last night. Now that he heard these words, his heart more or less calmed down. It wasn't like yesterday, surging with anger, feeling aggrieved and unresigned. Pei Xing was very calm. He waited for everyone to stop asking questions before he said, "No matter what I say, it won't be as real as what everyone saw with their own eyes." He paused and his gaze swept across the citizens. "I invited all of you here today to settle the matter regarding the beautifying cream and to give everyone an explanation. Therefore, Jubao specially took out a bottle of beautifying cream to test the effects of the beautifying cream in public. Try it for free." His last 4 words were enunciated very clearly. The crowd was instantly in an uproar. When Pei Xing received an exquisite wooden box from Yiqing Luo's hands, everyone quietened down as they stared at Pei Xing's hands. Pei Xing placed the wooden box on the table and slowly opened the lid. Every single one of his movements was deliberately slow, filled with a mysterious aura. When the transparent jade-like medicine bottle was carefully taken out, everyone saw the pink ointment, which seemed to be plated with fluorescent light. The crowd was in an uproar again. This is the beautifying ointment. Pei Xing held the beautifying ointment in his hand, and his voice became solemn, gathering treasures has already submitted the beautifying ointment to the auction, and the base price is 500,000 crystal stones. After the base price was announced, the citizens' expressions were filled with astonishment and disbelief. A bottle of ointment cost 500,000 crystal stones. Chapter 36-34. One must know, such as beauty cream or rouge powder and so on. The quality was slightly better. Some of them had miraculous effects. At most 1,000 crystal stones was the maximum. Treasure gathering actually opened 500,000 crystal stones. This. Who would go to bid for this? Only an idiot would bid for it. So in order to let everyone witness the effect of the beauty ointment, whether it's real or fake, and whether it has such a miraculous effect, it's equivalent to treasure gathering using 500,000 crystal stones, to prove its name. Pei Xing seemed as though he didn't hear what the citizens were discussing. As though he didn't see the citizens' astonished and ridiculing expressions. He continued talking on his own. His tone was filled with pride. As though he had really taken out 500,000 crystal stones, to prove treasure gathering's name. The citizens looked as though they were looking at an idiot. What 500,000 crystal stones? That's only worth 500,000 crystal stones if someone is willing to bid for it, all right. Yiqing Luo saw that the atmosphere was just right. The citizens were all doubting Pei Xing's words. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly as she smiled lightly. Let's not talk too much, directly use actions to prove the effect of the beauty ointment. Now, may eldest young master Qiao please invite our first test customer. When Xiao Yin heard that, he turned around and walked into treasure gathering. Not long later, he supported a petite figure who was covered in a cloak as he walked over. Xiao Yin helped the lady to sit on the chair. Yiqing Luo walked to the lady's side as her slender fingers, placed on the edge of the cloak, as she spoke with a smile, in order to prevent others from saying that these test customers are intentionally bribed by us treasure gathering, intentionally faking it, so. The guests we invite, are those whom everyone has more or less heard of, and know of. Her words fell. Yiqing Luo suddenly lifted the black cloak which was covering the lady's face. Everyone's gazes congealed on the lady's face. When they saw the lady's face which was filled with scars, pitted and terrifying, they couldn't help but drew in a breath of cold air. Her face was filled with scars, and there wasn't a single part which was unscathed. The lady was stared at by everyone's eyes. She had been used to feeling inferior for a long time, and at this moment, her face was burning, as she couldn't sit still. Yiqing Luo didn't want the lady to expose her shortcomings. When she found this lady, the woman already knew that she would be the target of everyone's gazes. That face of hers couldn't be any worse than that. He wanted to restore his appearance and change his face. The woman gritted her teeth and agreed to Pei Xing's request. He openly exposed his face in front of everyone's eyes. This young lady is the daughter of old Tofu Lu from the neighboring street. Due to an accident when she was young, her face was burned. Yiqing Luo introduced, I believe the neighbors on the neighboring street should be very familiar with this young lady. It wasn't just the neighbors who knew each other. Many citizens of Without Embroiling City knew that old Lu's Tofu family's daughter had her face burned. Due to the disfigurement of his face, he was already 19 years old this year and had yet to be betrothed. She was an old lady who basically couldn't get married. He was sure that this woman was not lying. Pei Xing opened the bottle cap of the beautifying ointment and said to the woman, "Open your palm." The woman obeyed and opened her hands. Pei Xing carefully poured out a small ball of pink ointment and smeared it on the woman's palm. Now, apply this ointment to your face. The woman looked at the ointment in her hand. It smelled very fresh and not pungent. She slowly smeared the ointment on her palm on her face. It was just a small ball. Chapter 36-35. When the lady stopped moving, leaned against the chair and closed her eyes, Yiqing Luo asked with a smile, how do you feel now? The lady remained silent for a moment, very cold, and a little itchy. Can you resist not scratching? Yi Qing Luo continued to ask. Yes. The lady took a deep breath, her nails clenched into a ball. As long as my face is like a normal person, I can bear it. It's alright, hold on until your face is itchy, or when you can't stand the cold, you can tell me. Yi Qing Luo comforted her gently. The lady replied with an "N." Everyone's attention was focused on the lady's face. The lady sat stiffly on the chair, eyes closed, her body tensed up. After applying the beauty cream, there was no change at all. About the time it took to burn a stick of incense had passed. The citizens' patience was exhausted. Especially the lady's burnt and pitted face, there was no change at all. Suddenly, they felt that they had been played. As time went by, the dissatisfied discussions among the citizens grew louder. Some even said that the treasure gathering was lying. If it wasn't for old Lai, that big Buddha, sitting there sloppily. Some of the ill-tempered citizens would have directly overturned the tables and chairs. However, no matter how the surrounding citizens discussed and ridiculed, Yi Qing Luo and the rest were all calm, their gazes fixed on the lady's face. Yi Qing Luo would occasionally ask the lady how she felt. Just as some citizens' legs were aching from standing and didn't want to waste any more time, among the crowd, a voice suddenly rang, "Lu Tofu's daughter, her body keeps trembling. Is she going to kill someone?" This was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. The impatient mood of the citizens was immediately affected by the gossiping. What? Human life? Right, look. That lady's body keeps trembling, it's obviously not normal. Gathering treasures, hurry up and wipe off the stuff on her face. You're asking for her life. Sure enough, we can't have any hopes for the treasure gathering. Everything is fake. They only know how to lie to their customers. And now they're trying to kill someone. Go report to the authorities. We must not let these unscrupulous businessmen taint our without embroiling city. After one person took the lead, all the rhythm was brought over by those words. For a moment, more than half of the thousands of people surrounding them were clamoring to report the incident to the authorities. No matter how much Pei Sheng's mentality had changed, he still couldn't help it. Faced with such a situation, he was more or less panicking. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at Pei Sheng, indicating him not to worry. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he glanced in the direction of the rhythm of talking about human lives. Coincidentally, he saw Xiao Yulu, who was wearing a white veil and a black veil over her face. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. As expected, Xiao Yulu came as well. Those words must have come from Xiao Yulu's bodyguard, right? The corners of her mouth lifted slightly. He was afraid that Xiao Yulu would be disappointed again. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change in the slightest when she was facing everyone's accusations. She leaned over and whispered in the woman's ear, "Is it too cold and itchy? You can't stand it anymore?" The woman's voice trembled as she said, If I hold on a little longer, will I be able to recover better?" Chapter 36. Yi Qing Luo paused and continued, "Although the longer you use the beauty cream, the better it will be for your face. But if you force yourself to endure it, there will be some effects." The lady's hand clenched tightly. She had been restraining herself from scratching her face. She remained silent for a while. Probably because she heard Yi Qing Luo's words. Or probably because she couldn't hold it in any longer. She said in a trembling voice, I can't take it anymore." Yi Qing Luo held the lady's hand and looked sideways at Xiao Yinyan. "Please help me get a basin of water. In order to avoid getting into trouble." Yi Qing Luo specially asked Pei Sheng to bring a basin of water by the side. Xiao Yinyan took the basin and scooped a basin of water over. Yi Qing Luo supported the lady and touched the basin. now, wash your face with water." The lady obeyed and bent over to wash her face. While washing, the lady's body started to tremble even more. The crowd, who had stopped the clamoring and discussion because of the lady washing her face, started to clamor again, that the lady's life was in danger and so on. The lady washed her face and slowly raised her head from the basin. Her wet hair stuck to both her cheeks. The lady covered her face with both her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. Seeing the lady raise her head, those clamoring people quietened down and stared straight at the lady's face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled, her long and narrow eyes gave a faint arc. "Take your hand down, let everyone see your face." The lady's trembling hands moved away from her face bit by bit. At that moment, the surrounding people burst into an uproar. Her face. Heavens! How is this possible? How did her face really recover? Is this really the same person as the ugly girl just now? I don't believe it. The citizens were astonished. One by one they widened their eyes, looking at the lady's face in disbelief. The lady stood in front of the table and chair. There was still water on her face, slowly sliding down. Her face, which was originally full of scars, was filled with scars. At this moment, she had completely recovered the face that a lady should have. Her facial features were regular, her skin fair and delicate. Although there were still some faint scars on her face. But those were not too obvious. In short, after the potholes of rotten flesh on his face were removed, he turned around. The woman became much more beautiful and charming. The citizens couldn't believe their eyes. Especially, they had witnessed with their own eyes, the woman with such a terrifying face had regained her smooth and tender skin. He had personally witnessed the process of an ugly girl becoming a beauty. Yiqing Luo placed the bronze mirror in the lady's hands as she smiled and looked towards the crowd. "I know that you must have some suspicions in your hearts. How about this? I'll find 2 people as representatives to check if this young lady's face is real or fake." Everyone immediately expressed their desire to be a representative. They all wanted to see for themselves whether this magical cream was real or not. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin and said, "I can't just randomly find one, otherwise if you insist that you're the one who hired the treasure house, then it won't be clear." Her gaze swept across the crowd. Suddenly, her slender white hand pointed in a certain direction. "Why don't I trouble the Empyrean fairy to help me examine it?" The direction which Yiqing Luo was pointing at was exactly the direction where Xiao Yulu was standing. Everyone looked towards the direction that Yiqing Luo was pointing at. When he saw Xiao Yulu. Chapter 36-37. Xiao Yulu's eyes were gloomy like a sharp blade as she stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to notice her steely expression as she smiled even more brilliantly. "Mysterious maiden, what do you think?" The hearts of the onlookers were thumping non-stop. They were very clear. The grudge between Bao and Princess Yulu. And they were very clear about the bet regarding the auction. Especially when the citizens were well aware of it. Yesterday's gossip was related to Princess Yulu. Now, Di Luo directly asked Princess Yulu to check on that lady's face, to see if it was real or fake, to check the authenticity of the beauty ointment. This meant that Di Luo had full confidence in the facial beauty ointment. As long as Princess Yulu confirmed that the lady's face had really recovered to normal skin. The efficacy of the beauty ointment was absolutely not fake. Under the hopeful gazes of the citizens, Xiao Yulu clenched her fists tightly as she walked out slowly under the escort of her guards. She raised her head slightly with an arrogant look as her voice was slightly cold. "How do you want me to check?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. "Mysterious maiden, don't be anxious, we still need to find another one." Her gaze took a look at the crowd. She walked directly towards the front of the crowd, towards a plain-looking man who was about 40 years old. "Uncle Lu, can I trouble you to personally check on your daughter's face?" The citizens recognized him. That plain-looking man was old Tofu Lu, who sold tofu on the neighboring street. Old Tofu Lu's eyes stared intently at his daughter's face as his eyes were filled with agitation. Under Yiqing Luo's support, he trembled as he walked to the front of the lady. Old Tofu Lu first touched the lady's face. His action was obviously very light and careful, as though he was testing. He was afraid that if he was not careful, he would ruin his daughter's face, which had finally recovered. Under Yiqing Luo's guidance, old Tofu Lu's strength increased slightly. In the end, he confirmed that his daughter's face had indeed recovered to normal. Even the ordinary pinching and rubbing had the feeling of normal skin. Old Tofu Lu was so agitated that tears fell down on the spot. Looking at the father and daughter pair crying together, everyone's hearts had more or less believed in the beauty ointment's efficacy. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Xiao Yu Lu. Mysterious maiden can also touch Miss Lu's face personally. Xiao Yu Lu's face darkened. She was the one who had personally used the facial cream. The beauty cream could even restore her face, which had already been corroded. Not to mention an ordinary burn. Di Luo had purposely asked her to come out at this time to check if it was real. It was obvious that he was deliberately making things difficult for her. Xiao Yulu's eyes sunk coldly as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. You clearly said yesterday that there's only 10 bottles of beauty cream left. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she gave an innocent smile. That's right, there were indeed only 10 bottles yesterday. But yesterday's rumors and slanders had a huge impact on our treasure gathering, so I can only try my best to refine another bottle of beauty ointment to clear up our treasure gathering's name. She paused for a moment, and her long and narrow eyes curved, revealing a hint of mischief. After all, this is the cream that even the Empyrean fairy wants. If I were to be influenced by the gossip, wouldn't that be mocking the taste of the Empyrean fairy? Are you fooling me? Xiao Yulu was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo's words that she almost threw up blood. Her entire body's muscles tightened into a ball as her gaze turned icy cold. Leave the rest of that bottle of beauty cream to me. I will testify on behalf of that ugly woman. Chapter 36-38. Xiao Yulu's eyes turned cold. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. The beauty cream's effect cannot be faked. If you really want to use your mysterious maiden's reputation and treasure-gathering bar, I have no objections. As she spoke, she put the beautifying cream away in front of Xiao Yulu's eager gaze. Of course, if the mystic fairy has made up her mind not to bid for the beautifying cream at the auction, I wouldn't mind the mystic fairy and the treasure-gathering alliance fighting. Yiqing Luo's words had completely blocked Xiao Yulu's way out. How could Xiao Yulu not want the beauty cream? Her face was totally different from old man Lu's tofu daughter's scalded wounds. Ordinary wounds could be recovered after using it once or twice. But her face had been corroded by the array spirit's evil chi. If she wanted her face to recover completely, at least she had to use another bottle or two of beauty cream. Xiao Yulu was very clear about this. In front of Di Luo, she probably had no advantage at all. Di Luo dared to let the treasure-gathering bar test the beauty cream's effect in public. She must have done all the preparations. If she intentionally slandered her, the beauty cream was fake and that young lady's face was fake, Di Luo would definitely use other ways to prove it. As for her, mysterious maiden, she might even cause the citizens to lose confidence in her because of this. Most importantly, she was going to bid for the beauty cream in tomorrow's auction. Wouldn't that be slapping her own face? Various thoughts flashed past Xiao Yulu's mind. She couldn't help but clenched her fists. Slut! She was obviously determined to get the beauty cream no matter what. She intentionally schemed and forced her. However, for her own face, Xiao Yulu had no choice but to compromise. Suddenly, she heard a young lady pretending to be surprised. Xiao Yulu frowned as she stared at the young lady. But she saw the young lady's burning gaze staring at her face with one hand propping up her chin. Her long and narrow eyes were smiling in surprise. Even though the young lady was wearing a white veil. Xiao Yulu could see the young lady's pink lips under the veil, curling into a ridiculing smile. Xiao Yulu's heart trembled. The young lady's following words were definitely not something nice. Just as he was about to open his mouth and stop talking to Yiqing Luo. However, the young girl was the first to speak. That's strange. The beautifying cream I left for Mystic Fairy that day should be enough for you to use until the auction. Why did you come to the gathering of treasures yesterday and ask me for the beautifying cream? Yiqing Luo's voice wasn't loud. But it was not small either. At the very least, the people at the front could hear it clearly. Immediately, the hearts of the citizens began to become active. Most people had heard that Princess Yulu had personally gone to treasure gathering to ask for the beautifying cream. But later, there were rumors that Princess Yulu went to Treasure Gathering Hall because Treasure Gathering Hall wanted to deceive its customers again. She wanted to persuade Treasure Gathering Hall to hand over the beautifying ointment so as to avoid harming others and herself. However, from Di Luo's words, it seemed like the truth wasn't like this. Did Princess Yulu use beauty cream before? And he even asked Di Luo for some beauty cream? Listening to the discussions of the citizens, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. Xiao Yulu's face under the veil was so dark that it was scary. Her venomous gaze stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo remained unmoved as she blinked her eyes and looked at the maidservant Kai Dai, who shrunk her head and legs as she stood beside Xiao Yulu. A sliver of understanding flashed past her eyes. She leaned forward slightly and got close to Xiao Yulu's ear as she laughed softly. Surely Mystic Fairy didn't intentionally destroy Kai Dai's face to test if the beautifying cream is effective, using her face to test the beautifying cream, right? As her words fell, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Chapter 36-39. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Looked like she had guessed correctly. No wonder she felt something was amiss the minute she saw Kai Dai. Kai Dai's face had an obvious scar as she curled up beside Xiao Yulu, without the fox exploiting the tiger's might earlier. Xiao Yulu was indeed quite ruthless. Towards her personal maid who had taken care of her for so many years, she could be so ruthless. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she gave a helpless sigh. A bottle of beauty ointment was originally meant for you alone. Sigh, what a pity. Hearing Yiqing Luo's ambiguous tone, Xiao Yulu's heart felt as though something was exploding in her chest. Her gaze turned increasingly vicious, like a sharp blade, as though she wanted to dismember Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. However, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all. Instead, she met her vengeful gaze. As though the angrier she got, the angrier she got. Yiqing Luo's smile became even more radiant and joyous. A face which is corroded by the demonic qi is not something that can be solved by a bottle of beauty ointment. It needs to be used continuously for at least 3 days and cannot be interrupted. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she pretended to speak carelessly. Originally, that bottle of beauty ointment was enough for you to use for 3 days. Alas, you don't believe me. She shrugged her shoulders as she gave a helpless sigh. Not using it for 3 days and interrupting the beauty ointment midway, your face is even more troublesome. If I didn't guess wrongly. The skin on your face is starting to fester again, right? Xiao Yulu's pupils constricted. Yiqing Luo, who noticed the small details, her pink lips curled into a deep smile. Mysterious maiden, what should you do? Is your face more important or is it more important? This is really a difficult choice. Xiao Yulu was so infuriated that she wanted to vomit blood. How would she not understand the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words? Di Luo, don't be complacent too early. She gritted her teeth as she spat out these few words, flicked her sleeves and turned around to leave. The group of guards behind him immediately followed suit. Yiqing Luo waved towards the direction where Xiao Yulu left, mysterious maiden, remember to come to tomorrow's auction, I'll be waiting for your good news." Xiao Yulu almost staggered when Xiao Yulu's figure completely disappeared on both sides of the street. Only then did the citizens dare to speak. "Why did Princess Yulu leave without saying anything? Aren't you going to check the face of old Lu's Tofu's daughter? What does Princess Yulu mean by this?" The conversation between Xiao Yulu and Yiqing Luo. Other than those words which Yiqing Luo intentionally let the surrounding citizens hear. As for the other words, Yiqing Luo intentionally suppressed her voice. Xiao Yulu left angrily. Everyone was curious. What did Di Luo say to make Princess Yulu leave in anger? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders as she spread out her hands. "I'm not sure about mysterious maiden's thoughts. Maybe it's because she wants to buy the beauty ointment at a high price, and besides the 10 bottles of beauty ointment that Treasure Gathering brought to the auction, there are no other beauty ointment, so Mystic Fairy is angry." Everyone looked at each other in dismay, as though they were contemplating whether Yiqing Luo's words were true or false. However, what caught most people's attention was, there were only 10 bottles of beautifying cream left. 10 bottles? It was a cream that could turn an ugly woman into a beautiful woman. How could only 10 bottles be enough? Based on Princess Yulu's character, if the beauty ointment was fake, she would have exposed Treasure Gathering in public. How could she possibly leave without saying anything? Chapter 3640. Everyone in Without Embroiling City knew. The day Princess Yulu returned to Without Embroiling City, she started a feud with a woman called Di Luo. The two of them even made a life and death bet because of the Treasure Gathering exchange. Moreover, there was the matter of Treasure Gathering being smeared by a series of rumors and slanders yesterday. It was obviously Princess Yulu's doing. If the beauty ointment was fake. If the father-daughter duo colluded with the Treasure Gathering exchange to put on a show. Princess Yulu would definitely take this opportunity to make things difficult for them. So, the beauty ointment of the Treasure Gathering exchange was definitely authentic. Especially when Princess Yulu personally asked for the beauty ointment, it was definitely true. As a result, the citizens were looking forward to the beauty ointment even more. There were even people who booked future beauty ointment with the Treasure Gathering exchange. The rumors that smeared the Treasure Gathering exchange seemed to be unable to extinguish the citizens' yearning for the beauty ointment. When Xiao Yulu heard the news about the beauty ointment, she was so angry that she vomited blood on the spot. She was so angry that she vomited blood. She originally wanted to use the rumors to smear the Treasure Gathering exchange and make Di Luo's plan fail. But unexpectedly, she spent a lot of manpower, material resources, and financial resources to smear the Treasure Gathering exchange. Instead, it helped the Treasure Gathering exchange. Instead, it made the beauty ointment even more legendary. In addition, she humbly asked the leader of the bloody mercenaries, Su Qingbing, to personally come forward and accuse the Treasure Gathering exchange of using Bloody's fame for its own benefit, and that the beauty ointment was fake. But Su Qingbing did not take her, the mysterious lady, seriously at all. She directly rejected her proposal. Unfortunately, she was just a mysterious lady who had just become Without Embroiling City. She had no way to order or threaten Bloody. She could only return in disappointment. He didn't expect that, just after she left the Treasure Gathering exchange. The leader of the bloody mercenaries, Su Qingbing, personally led the mercenaries to the entrance of the Treasure Gathering exchange. She personally admitted the effect of the beauty ointment. This was a clear slap in her face. It could be said that after the series of things that happened today, the beauty ointment's value would increase by several times. The value of the beauty ointment would increase by several times. Xiao Yulu really vomited blood. If this continued, it was very likely that Treasure Gathering auction would win the honor of the best auction house. She must think of a way to let Zhongqing Exchange's limelight surpass that of Treasure Gathering before the auction tomorrow. But, these thoughts. Xiao Yulu didn't have time to implement it. The reason for that was because the Xiao family's master just so happened to see him vomiting blood. Therefore, family head Xiao was worried and depressed, and wanted to invite a doctor to take a look at Xiao Yulu. Xiao Yulu was impatient and wanted to go to the Zhongcheng trading firm. How could Patriarch Xiao be at ease? This pull and pull. The black veil on Xiao Yulu's face was torn off. Under the veil, half of her festering face was a ghastly sight. This also shocked Xiao family head. Yiqing Luo had heard these things from Xiao Yinyan's mouth. It was said that Xiao Yulu's disfigured smile had spread throughout the entire Xiao residence. Xiao Yulu was forced to stay in the room to rest. Many doctors surrounded Xiao Yulu's room and studied her face. Chapter 36-41. Xiao Yinyan nodded. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Even if Master Xiao doesn't make a move, she will definitely bid for it. The reason for that was because no woman would be able to tolerate any problems with her face. Especially for a lady like Xiao Yulu who valued looks the most. Even if Xiao Yulu wasn't willing to lose the bet. She wasn't willing to let Yiqing Luo be complacent. Xiao Yulu would definitely bid for the beautifying cream. But Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly turned grave. She shouldn't compromise so easily. Even if she has no time to deal with the treasure gathering, she should put her thoughts on the Zhongcheng exchange hall. She paused and suddenly raised her head. I suggest that you guard the door of her room tonight. Xiao Yinyan was stunned and immediately understood something as his expression congealed. What you mean is, there's a possibility that she will contact that group of people who set up the soul-devouring array? Those people's target might be me. If Mysterious Maiden wants to target me, those people will naturally make use of Mysterious Maiden to deal with me. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. If those people help Mysterious Maiden, not to mention whether Mysterious Maiden can win the bet with me, the most important thing is, it will definitely affect the Xiao family. Yiqing Luo didn't wish for the Xiao family to be implicated because of Xiao Yulu's mistake. Xiao Yinyan's expression turned grave. Only dare to hide in the dark and use a borrowed knife to kill a rat, dare to make use of our Xiao family. I will explain this matter to father and send more people to watch over Princess Yulu, to prevent Palace Mistress Yulu from contacting those people. Yiqing Luo curled her lips at him. You don't have to be too nervous, perhaps I'm thinking too much. Just in case, we still need to pay attention. To be able to create a sinister array with a formation core spirit in the West Cliff Mountain, the other party's ability was definitely not weak. But why didn't they dare to show themselves? Instead they used this method to hide in the dark and pay attention to them. This made one have no choice but to guard against them. Xiao Yinyan stood up with a heavy expression as he prepared to leave the treasure-gathering exchange hall. Looking at Xiao Yinyan's back view, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she suddenly said, Yinyan, it seems you've never asked why. Xiao Yinyan stopped in his tracks. After a moment of silence, he turned around. Yiqing Luo met his gaze and spoke out softly, you should be able to guess that those people's identities and abilities aren't weak. Aren't you curious why they would target me when I'm just an ordinary person? It seemed like ever since she met Xiao Yinyan, no matter what happened to her, Xiao Yinyan was not curious even once. If it was her, she would definitely be suspicious. It was just like, after she saw that Pei Sheng was not affected by the soul-devouring array, she had some speculations about Pei Sheng. However, Xiao Yinyan had never been surprised by what had happened to her. A warm smile slowly appeared on Xiao Yinyan's handsome face. It made her elegant face look even more ethereal. His thin lips moved, and he said word by word with a smile, when you are willing to speak, I will listen. In short, I believe you. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Xiao Yinyan had an inexplicable good impression of her. And a few times of unconditional help. She really couldn't understand Xiao Yinyan's feelings for her. If she said that Xiao Yinyan liked her. But to tell the truth, she really didn't feel that Xiao Yinyan liked her. If she said that he didn't. Chapter 36-42. Yi Qing Luo sighed. You can't guess a man's thoughts. No matter how you guessed, you wouldn't be able to guess. Then we'll talk about it when I feel like it. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand weakly at him. Go keep an eye on your sister, I'll go take a look at Zishi's situation. Forget it, it's better not to ask. If she continued asking, perhaps Xiao Yinyan would flirt with her again. She couldn't possibly ask directly, hey, do you like me? Don't like me, I have a fiancé. If she really said that, when they meet again, wouldn't it be awkward to death? Most importantly, she wasn't sure. Was Xiao Yinyan's feeling towards her the kind of love between a man and a woman? Xiao Yinyan returned to the Qiao residence and explained to Patriarch Qiao about the black-robed men. Patriarch Qiao was extremely shocked. But he believed that his son wouldn't lie. So he secretly sent the secret guards to guard Xiao Yulu's door tightly. Nothing happened that night. Only, the Qiao family didn't know. Xiao Yulu was in a flustered and exasperated state, using a pen to poke the paper which was filled with Di Luo's name, cursing Di Luo venomously. When a light breeze blew past, her eyes suddenly turned blurry and she laid sprawled on the table, unconscious. From the secret guard's point of view, Xiao Yulu seemed to be tired of cursing and laid on the table to rest. The current Xiao Yulu's consciousness had fallen into a temporary darkness. When it was bright again, that red-robed young lady with a white veil appeared in front of her, smiling sweetly as she looked at her with ridicule. That young lady was like a high and mighty queen, looking down on everything. His mouth continued to say humiliating words to her. Xiao Yulu stared at the young lady in front of her as her pupils contracted. Indescribable hatred and anger filled her chest. Finally, under the young lady's contemptuous smile, Xiao Yulu let out an angry howl. Her fists clenched tightly as she punched towards the young lady's face. Bam! The young lady was punched onto the ground. However, that radiant and enchanting face was still sneering at him. Xiao Yulu's eyes were bloodshot as she pounced forward, beating and tearing the young lady. Once, and again. Again and again. It wasn't until the young girl's body was completely unrecognizable that she stopped, panting heavily. Did you vent your anger? Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in the surroundings. It was as if it was ringing in his ears. Xiao Yulu straightened her back in shock and quickly looked around. If you think that's the best way to vent your anger, I can help you make the real imperial fall look like this. That voice seemed to be filled with bewitchment. Who are you? Who is it? Xiao Yulu looked around cautiously. The Empyrean fairy is really forgetful. Didn't we just cooperate a few days ago? The voice laughed in a low voice. Xiao Yulu's eyes narrowed as rage filled her face. It's you guys? The ones who created the soul-devouring array? How dare you appear in front of this empress? She stood up angrily, her eyes burning with anger. Because of that so-called formation, her face had almost been swallowed by the formation, causing her to be disfigured. This group of people had deceived her. They said that she would help to lure Imperial Fall to West Cliff Mountain so that she would have the chance to kill Yi Qing Luo personally. She had not expected that she almost became the array's food. This group of people totally didn't want to help her sincerely. Chapter 36-43. In the face of Xiao Yulu's anger, the voice chuckled in a low voice. The laughter was sinister and cold. Xiao Yulu was so infuriated that her chest heaved up and down as her eyes turned red. What are you laughing at? Why must mysterious maiden be angry? Haven't we agreed right from the start that we are only making a deal? That voice said calmly, I'll help you lure that woman into the West Cliff Mountain. Whether you can kill her or not will depend on your own ability. That voice paused for a moment as its tone was filled with ridicule and ridicule. Your ability is not up to par, don't tell me you blame us. You. Xiao Yulu's face flushed red as she gritted her teeth and roared, you're obviously the one who lied to me. Didn't you tell me that that's the soul-devouring array? If it wasn't for the fact that I have the protective talisman which Ling Long Palace Lord had passed to me, I would have died in that array. Her face, which was as beautiful as a flower and as beautiful as a fairy, would not have turned into such a state. She wouldn't lower herself to get the beauty cream from Yiqing Luo's hands. All of this was because of this group of people. They actually dared to appear. And even wanted to make use of her. That voice laughed sinisterly, oh? Really? Even if we tell you that's the soul-devouring array, will you really give up the only chance to kill that woman personally and not step into the soul-devouring array? Not waiting for Xiao Yulu to reply. That voice continued to laugh, no, you will. Xiao Yulu's mouth moved but ultimately she couldn't say any words of rebuttal. Yes, she would. Even if she knew it was the soul-devouring array, she would still enter the array. So what's the point of saying it or not? Anyway, it won't affect your decision, right? The voice chuckled again. Xiao Yulu's brows creased tightly as she felt that something was amiss. But she felt that what that voice said seemed to make sense. Not waiting for Xiao Yulu to think carefully, that voice rang again, I have a deal here, do you want to do it? Xiao Yulu pursed her lips as she hesitantly scanned the surroundings. It was a patch of gray and she couldn't sense any other signs of life. But that voice seemed as though it was right beside her ears. She pondered for a moment, as if she was thinking about the other party's purpose. The other party didn't rush him either. After a long silence, she slowly said, what deal? The voice laughed. I have an item here that will definitely fetch the highest price in the auction. It can help you suppress the treasures gathering exchange hall and win the bet with that woman. Xiao Yulu's eyes lit up. What is it? As long as you agree, that thing will appear in the auction in the name of Zhongcheng Trading Firm tomorrow morning. The voice didn't intend to answer Xiao Yulu's question. Xiao Yulu furrowed her brows. How can I believe you? You can only choose to believe. The voice lowered its voice and revealed a trace of bewitching intent. Could it be that, you don't want the treasure gathering to fail, and you don't want that woman to crawl beneath your feet? Just like that. A voice sounded in the direction of the voice. Xiao Yulu subconsciously looked in the direction of the young girl whom she had just beaten up. The girl in red fell to the ground, battered and battered. Xiao Yulu's eyes narrowed as a blazing flame spread in her eyes. Fine. I can believe you guys one more time. Then, what do you want me to do? Chapter 36-44. The next day. The auction. All the citizens of the main cities had rushed over to participate in the annual Without Embroiling Cities auction. The entire Without Embroiling City was bustling with activity. Especially the citizens of Without Embroiling City, they were in high spirits. There were even people who set up bets on who would win the bet, Princess Yu Lu or Miss Di Luo. Yiqing Luo and the rest handed over their invitation and entered the auction. That was even more shocking. The scene of the auction could no longer be described as explosive. The auction in the land domain was an extremely important event. It was an annual event. It was a gathering of all the auction houses in the entire Earth realm to participate in this event. The participating auction houses would be ranked according to the amount of crystal stones they bid on the spot. For 5 consecutive years, the auction house with the lowest number of bids would have its marketing rights revoked. This was the reason why the 3 main cities' mysterious fairies left the Linglong Hall and returned to the main cities. Most importantly, the annual auction was not exclusive to Without Embroiling City. It was for the 3 main cities to compete for the right to host the auction. This was similar to the Olympic Games. Which country would it be held in? It was extremely significant. This year, Without Embroiling City had won the right to host the auction. This made City Lord Lu extremely excited. The auction would be held in the main city of Without Embroiling City, at the venue. Without Embroiling City was the largest venue in Without Embroiling City. It was used to receive outsiders and VIPs from the upper realm. After Yiqing Luo walked into Without Embroiling City, she estimated that it could accommodate at least 30,000 people. This venue was divided into 2 floors. The first floor was the reception hall. There were many benches placed there, and all of them were already full. There were a lot of people standing in the surrounding aisles. It completely explained the true meaning of a sea of people. On the second floor, there were boxes one after another. After one round, there were at least 1 to 200 private rooms. These were used to receive VIPs and representatives of the top 50 auction houses. Since 5 years ago, after that incident at the treasure exchange, Pei Sheng had never been to the second floor. But this time, perhaps it was because of Yiqing Luo and Xiao Yulu's bet. Or perhaps it was because old Lai was by her side. City Lord Lu arranged a private room on the second floor for the treasure exchange. Moreover, the location was not bad. Yiqing Luo expressed that this was absolutely in order to please old Lai, in order to have a relationship with the Hell Palace, so she specially arranged it. After entering the private room, Pei Sheng was obviously somewhat restrained. His body was tense and his face was tense. Her eyes were slightly red. Yiqing Luo understood Pei Sheng's feelings very well. For Pei Sheng, the treasures exchange hall was what kept him going. It had always been his dream. They stepped onto the second floor. This was equivalent to the acknowledgement of his treasure-gathering exchange hall. Moreover, today was the day that the future of the treasures exchange house would be decided. In his heart, he was both excited and nervous. They sat in the private room and looked at the sea of people on the first floor. Pei Sheng was so nervous that his palms were sweating. Ah Luo, how many people do you think are here for the beauty cream? Men pursue strength and strength, while women pursue beauty above strength. Don't underestimate a woman's obsession with beauty. Yiqing Luo smiled at him. Relax, don't be too nervous. Pei Sheng nodded vigorously, clenched his fists, and took a deep breath. He wanted to calm down. Chapter 36-45. The more he tried to calm down, the more anxious he felt. There was a trace of embarrassment on Pei Sheng's handsome face. I'm going out for a walk. I'll be back soon. Looking at the embarrassed look in the man's eyes, Yiqing Luo knew that too. This kid was probably so nervous that he wanted to go to the toilet. However, the door of the private room was just closed. Yiqing Luo heard an extremely sharp and unkind voice coming from outside the door. Yo, isn't this Boss Pei? Then, a few mocking laughs rang out. Judging from the laughter, there were about 4 people. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. From his tone, it was obvious that he was here to cause trouble. She waved her sleeve. A surge of profound energy slightly opened and closed the door. Yiqing Luo saw Pei Sheng standing at the entrance, and in front of him were 4 wealthy-looking young men dressed in brocade robes. Pei Sheng didn't want to bother with him. He turned around and was about to return to the private room. However, one of them reached out and stopped Pei Sheng. He smiled and said, "Boss Pei, don't be in such a hurry to leave. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Aren't you going to greet an old friend?" The other 3 immediately surrounded Pei Sheng. Trapped in the middle, Pei Sheng lowered his head and tensed up. "I have nothing to say to you." "Yo! Boss Pei, you sure talk big." The man clicked his tongue and laughed. "I heard that Treasure Gathering House has climbed up the ladder and is preparing to win the honor of the best auction house in this auction. Is that why you're so proud of yourself?" Even though the man was praising Pei Sheng, however, it was obvious that they were mocking him. Pei Sheng's eyes were filled with anger. He struggled to break free from the man's hand and glared at him. What happens to the treasure gathering has nothing to do with you. How could it have nothing to do with me? After all, we used to be brothers. The man winked and smiled as he hooked his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder. Pei Sheng was so angry that his eyes turned red. He grabbed the man's hand and shook it off. Don't touch me. I don't know someone like you. Don't insult the word brother. The man who was flung away did not get angry. The other three men looked at each other and burst into laughter. Pei Sheng's face was filled with anger. However, he also knew that the auction was just around the corner, and he couldn't allow anything to go wrong at this moment. He suppressed his anger and looked at the person in front of him. Get out of the way. The man who was pushed away came forward with a cheeky smile. TSK, after 5 years, Boss Pei can finally come to the second floor of the auction again. Is it because City Lord Lu feels that after today, the signboard of the treasures trading house will be taken down, and he feels pity for you, so he is giving you one last chance to sit in the box on the second floor? Young Master Wang's words. That's true. How can a trashy auction house like Treasure Gathering be qualified to sit in our private room on the second floor? Isn't that lowering the status of our second floor? Right. We're all auction houses that are ranked in the top 50. The owner of a trashy auction house wants to sit with us? Is he looking down on us? Let's ask City Lord Lu what this means. When the men heard this, they cooperated and sang together. He even looked at Pei Sheng with disdain. What right does a person like you have to stand here? Do you still want to learn from your father's trick from 5 years ago? Fooling all the guests like fools. You don't want to learn anything, but you have to learn from your father, that liar. The three men kept humiliating him with words. Chapter 36-46. Young Master Wang, who had his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder, moved closer to Pei Sheng with his slightly plump body. He leaned close to Pei Sheng's ear and let out a low, evil laugh. Boss Pei, on account of our past relationship, I can help to persuade my brothers to let you stay on the second level of the trading house, which represents the honor of the trading house, on the last day that the trading house still exists. Young Master Wang's voice paused for a moment. There was an indescribable meaning in his laughter. Of course, you also know that I won't do a losing business. I'll help you this time. How are you going to repay me? Under the pincer attack of the 4 men, Pei Sheng's slender body trembled slightly. He hung his head. His excessively long hair cast a shadow that covered half of his face, as well as his expression. Pei Sheng remained unmoved. He didn't even struggle. Young Master Wang, who was close to Pei Sheng, became even bolder. His hands went straight towards Pei Sheng's body and started to touch her, in the private room. Xiao Yinyan and Lao Lai both saw the scene outside the door. Lao Lai couldn't stand it anymore. His face darkened. How dare you touch the person under my protection? Are you looking down on the underworld palace? He slammed the table and was about to rush out of the room. Xiao Yinyan frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo. Ah Luo, aren't you going to help? As he spoke, he stood up. As soon as Pei Sheng was stopped by the 4 men, Xiao Yinyan and Old Lai had already made their moves. But seeing that Yiqing Luo had yet to make a move, only then did they endure it. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as her slender brows creased slightly, as though she was pondering over something. She stared unblinkingly at Pei Sheng outside the door. When she saw that the man's hand was already reaching for Pei Sheng's butt, her frown deepened. A layer of red light appeared in his eyes. She stood up and was about to follow them out of the private room. Suddenly, her eyes flashed as if she had seen something. He reached out and grabbed Xiao Yinyan and Old Lai's arms. Wait. The two of them stopped and turned their heads towards Yiqing Luo in puzzlement. Was he not going to help Pei Sheng? If he still didn't make a move, Pei Sheng was about to be molested by a man. Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on the front as she said word by word, "Look." Just then, a bang sound of collision rang out. What followed was a blood-curdling scream. The two of them looked over at the same time. In the next instant, his pupils unconsciously dilated. His mouth also unconsciously opened wide. They saw. At the door, Pei Sheng, who looked like a little lamb that had been bullied, reached out and grabbed the hand that was still moving down her waist. Kacha! The sound of bones breaking rang out. Pei Sheng broke young Master Wang's hand without hesitation. Then, he raised his leg and kicked young Master Wang in the stomach. Young Master Wang let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying and crashed heavily into the door of the private room. The other three men were startled. He didn't expect Pei Sheng to make a move. Furthermore, it possessed such great power. He was still in a daze. Another man was punched directly in the face. The tip of his nose turned sour, and a stream of heat flowed down continuously. Following that, Pei Sheng executed another set of beautiful and smooth fighting moves and pressed the other three men onto the ground. That battle power was really dumbfounding. Even Old Lai and Xiao Yan, who had been interacting with Pei Sheng these few days, were shocked. Is this Brother Pei? Xiao Yan asked in shock. Chapter 36-47. What made the two of them dumbfounded was even more surprising. After Pei Sheng knocked down the three men, he walked directly towards one of them. He pulled that man who was crying out in pain and punched that man's face. Left and right, punch after punch. As though he wanted to beat that man to death. That man was originally still able to cry out miserably as he struggled to break free from Pei Sheng. But as Pei Sheng's fists continued to fall, the man's voice became weaker and weaker. The three men beside him were so frightened that they didn't dare to help. This commotion attracted the VIPs in the surrounding cabins, or the exchange house representatives, to crowd around. No way! The auction is about to start. If Brother Pei creates trouble at this time, he will be disqualified from participating in the auction. Xiao Yan looked at the surrounding people who were pointing at Pei Sheng, talking about something, and his expression instantly turned grave. Yiqing Luo frowned when she heard that. This was probably Xiao Yulu's design. She intentionally wanted to provoke Pei Sheng, using the auction's rules to disqualify them from participating in the auction. Once Treasure's Exchange House couldn't participate in the auction, Treasure's Exchange House would not be able to obtain the honor of the best exchange house. The reason why she didn't make a move earlier was because she didn't understand this rule. Part of the reason was that he wanted to see what kind of power Pei Sheng possessed. Because, just as they were about to walk out of the cabin to help Pei Sheng, her profound jade heart suddenly surged with a scorching feeling. The profound jade heart's power extended to her eyes. She clearly saw Pei Sheng's body, encircled by a layer of golden glow which she couldn't see through. That glow was very dazzling, and it was releasing a dense energy. It made her profound jade heart very restless. Yiqing Luo also noticed it. Other than the golden glow on Pei Sheng's body, the others, including Old Lai and Xiao Yan, didn't seem to notice Pei Sheng's abnormality. So, she pulled the both of them back. But she had not expected. As the golden glow became more and more brilliant, Pei Sheng was actually able to use his own power to directly take down four men whose abilities weren't weak. She pursed her lips, looking at Pei Sheng, who had lost control. She said, "Pull him back first." Just as Xiao Yan was about to push open the door, his hand paused, and his expression changed slightly. It's too late. City Lord Lu and the Executive Elder are here. Yiqing Luo looked over. City Lord Lu, who was dressed in a dark robe, and two old men who looked like immortals walked over quickly. When the three of them arrived, the onlookers cheered as they watched the show. City Lord Lu is here. The executive elder is here. The crowd dispersed, making way for City Lord Lu and the two executive elders. Amidst the hustle and bustle, Pei-sheng seemed as if he didn't hear it, and he still fiercely and barbarically punched the man who was on the verge of death. That ruthless look. It was like a beast that had been trapped for a long time. His entire body exuded a horrifying evil aura. Stop! Stop! What's going on? When City Lord Lu walked over, he saw that Pei-sheng was still acting tyrannically. His face darkened, and he walked over with a stern roar. However, before he could get close to Pei-sheng, Pei-sheng suddenly raised his head, and a pair of bloodshot eyes, like a wild beast, stared fiercely at him. City Lord Lu was so shocked that his footsteps halted, as his expression changed. Chapter 36-48. Pei-sheng's action was obviously challenging the authority of the executive elder and Governor Lu. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, their faces darkened. Pei-sheng half knelt on the ground, one hand holding the man's collar, his fist full of blood. As he raised his head, his eyes were bloodshot as he glared at the person in front of him. It was as if he did not hear their words at all. The two executive elders looked at each other. Suddenly, he clenched his hands into fists and simultaneously moved towards Pei-sheng's left and right. His fingers were like eagle claws as he grabbed Pei-sheng's shoulders. A golden light flashed in Pei-sheng's eyes. The vicious aura of a trapped beast became more and more intense. The crowd could not help but sigh. Obviously, he was going to fight with the executive elder. TSK, they did not know which trading house dared to ignore the executive elder of the auction and even fight with him. There was such a wonderful show in this year's auction. It was a worthwhile trip. Just as the two executive elders approached Pei-sheng, Pei-sheng's aura surged. Suddenly, a hurricane came. Then, a white figure appeared in front of Pei-sheng, blocking his way. One on the left and one on the right, it held the arms of the executive elder. At the same time, a sweet voice sounded, "Executive Elder and Governor Lu, please forgive me." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. A figure that looked like a raging flame slowly approached Pei-sheng. The girl's red clothes were burning like fire. She had an outstanding temperament, and her every move revealed an aura that made people feel pressured. When everyone wanted to see the girl's face, it was covered by a white veil. However, the white veil was half covered, which made the girl more beautiful and unparalleled. "Miss, be careful of that person. He's not normal." Someone reminded the girl who was approaching Pei-sheng out of good intentions. However, in the next moment, his eyes widened in shock. The girl slowly walked to Pei-sheng's side, bent down slightly, and covered Pei-sheng's head with her slender white hand. The aura of the man who was like a trapped beast was calmed down bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, the ruthless man had already let go of his hand. He swayed his body and got up. When Pei-sheng left the man who was violently beaten to death, a few men at the side immediately rushed forward and dragged him to the side. While dragging, he stared at Pei-sheng cautiously. He made sure that Pei-sheng didn't do anything. Only then did he feel relieved. Everyone's gaze fell on the young girl in unison. He seemed to be thinking about the girl's identity. Look at that man who was a head taller than the young girl. Just now, he was so fierce that even City Lord Lu didn't dare to approach him. At this moment, it was like an obedient pet, standing obediently behind the young girl. "Let go of me." Suddenly, an angry voice broke everyone's suspicions about the young girl. He shifted his gaze. Only then did he realize that just now, when the two executive elders wanted to hold Pei-sheng down and stop him from hurting more people, Pei-sheng's expression suddenly changed. It seemed like he had been intercepted? A single person intercepting two executive elders? How could they not pay attention to such a shocking thing? It seemed like, ever since the red-clothed girl appeared, all of their attention was involuntarily focused on the young girl. That red-clothed girl was simply poisonous. Everyone's gaze fell on the person who intercepted her. That person was wearing a gray robe that hung loosely on his body. His hair was neatly combed, but still a little messy. Chapter 36-49. But on that person's robe, there was a huge, prison word. Everyone's expression changed as their eyes were filled with shock. Even the executive elder who flew into a rage out of humiliation turned pale. So, he was from the Hell Palace. No wonder he could block the two executive elders with his own power. Senior, Hell Palace. The executive elder spoke with an ugly expression. I didn't know that Hell Palace Senior was coming, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. After everyone heard the executive elder's words, they confirmed that this person in front of them was indeed from the Hell Palace. All of them were so shocked that they took several steps back. Their faces were filled with terror as they stared at Old Lai, as though they had seen some kind of dreadful beast. City Lord Lu saw Old Lai coming out and immediately went up to him with a smile. Hell Palace Senior, please calm down, please calm down. It's just a small misunderstanding, please let go of the two executive elders first. In front of so many people. The executive elder of the auction was held in such a position by a person, unable to resist or move. It was really damaging to the auction's reputation. Especially. This was without embroiling City. If they infuriated the Hell Palace Senior. In this auction, they would create a huge ruckus. The one who would suffer in the end would be him. He absolutely must not mess up this auction. City Lord Lu smiled along. Old Lai shot a glance towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Seeing Yi Qing Luo nodding, he released his hands and clapped his palms. We are all civilized people, don't make a move so easily. Civilized people? People from the Hell Palace had the cheek to call themselves civilized people? He was cursing wildly in his heart. But he still hung a smile on his face as he nodded in agreement. What Hell Palace Senior said is right, we are all civilized people. Old Lai snorted and ignored City Lord Lu's fawning as he walked towards Pei Sheng's back and directly stretched out his hand, pulling Pei Sheng's ear. You brat, where did your brute force come from? I actually didn't realize that you have such an ability. Pei Sheng's handsome face surfaced a layer of sullen anger. His eyes were red as he stared at the man who had fainted on the ground. I don't care how he humiliates me, but he shouldn't have said that about my father. Those three men instantly reacted. No wonder Pei Sheng didn't hit anyone. Just focus on that kid and beat him up. Just because of that brat's words, Pei Sheng wanted to learn from his father, that swindler. This caused Pei Sheng to go crazy. Ahem. It's just a misunderstanding. It's fine, it's fine. City Lord Lu coughed lightly and tried to smooth things over. But, not waiting for him to finish. However, the girl's clear and sweet voice suddenly became a little cold. The girl tilted her head slightly and looked at Pei Sheng with a cold expression. She asked, from your tone, it seems like you didn't do anything wrong, right? Pei Sheng met Yi Qing Luo's gaze, but it only lasted for several breaths before he shifted his gaze away. But his neck was raised high. He seemed to be saying that he didn't think he had hit the wrong person. Yi Qing Luo laughed, right, you didn't do anything wrong. After venting out the resentment in your heart, no one dared to insult your father anymore. You feel that you're very powerful, right? Let's do it this way. In the future, if anyone says anything bad about your father, you can go up and beat them up until they are convinced. Beat them up until they don't dare to insult your father. How about that? Pei Sheng's body stiffened, and his pale face started to flush red. A pair of wandering gaze, floated towards Yiqing Luo's face from time to time. Chapter 3650. Pei Sheng pursed his lips into a thin line. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms over her chest as she gave him a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile, her expression indifferent. The entire second floor fell into silence. No one spoke to break the stalemate. The atmosphere was getting heavier and heavier. It made everyone feel a little oppressed in their hearts. However, City Lord Lu did not say anything. The executive elder did not say anything. The senior from the underworld palace didn't say anything. The others didn't dare to make a sound. There was a moment of silence. Pei Sheng couldn't take the pressure. He lowered his head and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." "You're not wrong, how could you be wrong?" Yiqing Luo chuckled, her attitude was cold. Pei Sheng's body trembled and he bent down. "Ah Luo, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I was really wrong." Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she fixed her gaze on Pei Sheng for some time before she opened her mouth faintly. "Then tell me, where did you go wrong?" Pei Sheng's body stiffened again. He did not reply. Yiqing Luo took a glance at old Lai. Lao Lai understood. He put his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder and helped him up. Pei Sheng straightened his back. A pair of wandering eyes met with Yiqing Luo's slightly indifferent eyes. "There's no need for you to apologize to me. If you feel that you're not wrong, then you're not wrong." Yiqing Luo looked at him as she replied indifferently. Pei Sheng looked into her eyes. There seemed to be something surging in his heart. After a moment, he forcefully closed his eyes and said very slowly, "I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so impulsive. I shouldn't have used the future of treasure gathering just to vent my anger." The expression on Pei Sheng's face was complicated. "I know what you mean, Ah Luo. You want me to face everything calmly and not be led by the nose by others." After he awoke from his rage, Pei Sheng knew that he was too impulsive. However, he did not regret it. Because he would never allow anyone to insult his father. But, facing Yiqing Luo's flat tone of questioning. However, he couldn't confidently say something like, "I know I was wrong, but I don't regret it." He knew. What Yiqing Luo said was because she was angry. She was angry that he had acted so rashly despite knowing the rules of the auction. With this, the treasures gathering exchange didn't have the qualifications to participate in the auction at all. His impulsiveness had not only harmed the treasure exchange, and also harmed Yiqing Luo. This realization made Pei Sheng feel even more guilty. "I should have remembered your words. I should have used my actions to prove Treasure Gathering Society's name instead of acting rashly, but it had already happened." The people he had beaten up were the young masters of 3 of the top 10 trading houses in the trading world. To be able to rank in the top 10 trading houses, the power behind them was not to be underestimated. Those families definitely wouldn't allow treasure gathering to continue participating in the auction. Looking at the guilt on Pei Sheng's face, it was clear that he understood the mistake of his impulsiveness. The expression on Yiqing Luo's face eased up slightly. She leaned forward and gently patted Pei Sheng's shoulder. He seemed to be comforting Pei Sheng. As she approached Pei Sheng, she lowered her voice and said to Pei Sheng, "You should know that you are now representing the entire Treasure Assembly Exchange. Your every action will be closely watched by others. These 4 people, when the Treasure's trading house was in its prime, you should have been good brothers who talked about everything, right?" Chapter 3651. Obviously, she had guessed correctly again. Yiqing Luo continued, "These 4 people should be intentionally invited by mysterious maiden to agitate you, to lure you into making a move. In this way, treasure gathering will be removed from the auction." Pei Sheng's pupils suddenly shrank. Then what should we do?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Now you know how to be nervous?" I was wrong. Pei Sheng lowered his head, his tone full of guilt. Yi Qing Luo released his shoulder and took a deep look at him. Naturally, she couldn't just watch as treasure gathering was removed from the list. Old Lai was here. The auction would most likely give face to the underworld palace. However, Yi Qing Luo felt that Xiao Yulu might not give up so easily. She glanced at Pei Sheng again and sighed. Forget it. This time, he would treat it as a lesson for Pei Sheng. Being able to change the fact that he would go berserk and ignore the consequences whenever he heard insulting words about his father was not a bad thing. However, before this, she still had one more thing to settle. Ahem, alright. Don't blame Boss Pei, Miss D. I'm afraid this is just a misunderstanding. Don't let a misunderstanding affect everyone's relationship. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo had stopped reprimanding Pearson, City Lord Lu immediately spoke up to smooth things over. Since Di Luo would reprimand Pei Sheng, this meant that Di Luo was trying to resolve this issue. This was an inevitable choice. At this critical juncture, the Treasures Exchange House was in a critical state. If he could avoid causing trouble or standing out, he would try his best to keep a low profile. As long as Di Luo was willing to relent, this matter would definitely be resolved satisfactorily. City Lord Lu heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Then, he looked at the four representatives of the auction house with a dignified expression. Since this matter is a misunderstanding, let's shake hands and make peace. Wait for the auction to begin and don't cause any more trouble. The four representatives of the trading house were supporting their young masters. When they heard City Lord Lu's words, their faces turned green. He had beaten their young master into a pig's head. How could he say it was a misunderstanding? This was especially true for the representative of the trading firm, who had been beaten to the brink of death and had almost lost half of his life. However, looking at the warning look in Lord Lu's eyes, behind City Lord Lu, there were two executive elders with ashen faces. In the end, he kept his mouth shut. They still wanted to participate in the auction. The threat in City Lord Lu's words just now was very obvious. They did not dare to resent City Lord Lu and the executive elder. So he placed all his anger onto the Treasures Exchange Hall, especially on Yi Qing Luo. Seeing that the representatives of the four trading houses had tacitly agreed with City Lord Lu's words, City Lord Lu then smiled at Yi Qing Luo, Miss D. He had only spat out 3 words. The girl's cold, mocking voice rang in his ears. Misunderstanding? Who told you that this was a misunderstanding? City Lord Lu was taken aback. What? Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest as she slightly raised her chin and sneered at City Lord Lu. The auction is such a strict and solemn place, and this group of people actually gathered together to bully our Treasures trading house, trying to join hands to chase them away from the second floor. She snorted coldly and slowly took a step forward. He took a step forward. The crowd could only feel an invisible pressure pressing down on them. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she sneered, "They're only questioning City Lord Lu's arrangements? Does City Lord Lu think that this is a misunderstanding?" The faces of the representatives of the 4 trading houses alternated between green and white. Chapter 3652. What gathering a crowd to bully Bao Ju? It was obviously their young master, yet he was beaten up by Pei Sheng, alright? They swallowed their anger and didn't haggle over it. This young lady actually dared to find trouble with them? One City Lord Lu's expression didn't look too good. Although Yi Qing Luo's words seemed to be speaking up for him, teaching those who doubted his authority. But, this was obviously Yi Qing Luo intentionally dragged him into this. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to let these 4 representatives off. Yi Qing Luo's action, which made Pei Sheng slightly astonished. He didn't quite understand. Luo clearly knew that he was in the wrong for beating them up. City Lord Lu and the executive elder didn't pursue the matter and let Bao Ju continue to stay in the auction. This was already the biggest preferential treatment, wasn't it? Pei Sheng looked at Xiao Yinyan in puzzlement, hoping to get an answer. But he saw Xiao Yinyan's puzzled face. But, at the next moment, Xiao Yinyan seemed to have thought of something as a smile surfaced on his face. Pei Sheng was puzzled. Xiao Yinyan walked to his side and lightly patted his shoulder as he spoke in a low voice. Earlier, Luo saw the scene of you being bullied by those 4 people outside the door. She is the most protective and can't tolerate anyone bullying her brother in front of her. She is helping you to vent your anger. Xiao Yinyan's words made Pei Sheng stunned on the spot. His eyes widened, and there seemed to be something churning in his heart. Luo did it for him, so she did it in this way. Yiqing Luo's overbearing manner and her righteous words made the other party unable to say a single word of rebuttal. City Lord Lu tried to interrupt Yiqing Luo's words several times. But he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo's extremely fast speed. In the end, City Lord Lu's face was steely green, and when Yiqing Luo stopped, he asked with a black face, according to Miss D's meaning, "What does Miss D want?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she slightly raised her chin and smiled. Towards this kind of trading house which doesn't know how to respect the auction's rules and also doubts City Lord Lu's decision. I feel that we should directly cancel their right to participate in the auction. The minute Yiqing Luo's words were heard, the surrounding people started to draw in cold air. The faces of the 4 trading house representatives were livid, and they couldn't help but want to curse angrily. But Yiqing Luo sighed again, but in this way. The punishment towards them is equivalent to cutting off the trading house's escape route. I'm such a kind-hearted person, so I definitely can't bear to do that. As she spoke, she blinked her charming eyes. With a, "I'm pure, I'm kind," expression on her face, she looked at the 4 trading house representatives with a smile. How about this? Aside from apologizing to Treasure Gathering, I'll punish you by disqualifying you from staying in the private rooms on the 2nd floor. All of you can go to the 1st floor and participate in the auction. The representatives of the 4 trading houses looked as if a dye vat had been opened. The faces of Governor Lu and the executive elder were extremely ugly. The 2 executive elders looked at each other and said solemnly, "This matter is of great importance. Give us some time to consider." Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. "Take your time to consider, after all I am so kind." The representatives of the 4 trading houses almost vomited blood as they cursed in their hearts, "Kind my ass." The executive elder pulled City Lord Lu and walked towards the direction where there were fewer people. Chapter 3653. City Lord Lu shook his head. "I haven't found out her identity yet. What relationship does she have with Hell Palace?" Executive Elder's expression was grave. Details that no one else had noticed. Executive Elder sensed it. That Hell Palace senior was very obedient to the young lady's words. No matter what he did, he seemed to notice the young lady's expression. As long as the young lady gave a signal, he would immediately take action. One must know. That bunch of lunatics from Hell Palace were known as the most feared lunatics in the Earth realm. That wasn't without reason. That bunch of lunatics had no rationality at all. They acted according to their own interests. Every powerhouse in the Earth realm wanted to climb up to Hell Palace. But at the same time, they were afraid of Hell Palace. There was no one who could make the Hell Palace's lunatics treat them with respect. That young lady was someone who could order people from Hell Palace around? Who on earth was she? Before they were clear about this matter, the 2 executive elders didn't dare to show any unhappiness towards Yiqing Luo. City Lord Lu's expression turned ugly as he glanced at Yiqing Luo, who was standing not too far away with an indifferent attitude as he clenched his fists. "I heard from Hell Palace's senior that the young lady named D. Luo is their Hell Palace's distinguished guest." Hell Palace's distinguished guest. Executive Elder's brows creased tightly. What kind of distinguished guest could Hell Palace have? Who could make Hell Palace's people treat them as a distinguished guest? I'm not too sure about the exact situation. City Lord Lu had some suspicions towards Yiqing Luo, but after this period of observation, Hell Palace's attitude towards Miss D is absolutely not fake. Executive Elder exchanged glances. If it really implicates Hell Palace and messes up the auction, this is not just our Executive Elder's responsibility. City Lord Lu nodded. On account of Hell Palace's face, we'd better try our best to satisfy Miss D's request. If they made Hell Palace's senior unhappy, Hell Palace came to create a scene. This year's auction would definitely turn into a joke. All those who were in charge of the auction had to bear this responsibility. They didn't want to be the scapegoat. It was better to turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. At most, after this matter had ended, they would personally talk to those powerhouses behind the exchange. They would personally talk to them. Those forces would more or less give them some face. Pay more attention to the treasures gathering exchange hall, so as to avoid any other strange occurrences during the auction. After the Executive Elder made his decision, he gave a few more instructions. City Lord Lu replied. The three of them returned together to Yiqing Luo and the others. Yiqing Luo looked at them smilingly. Between her long and narrow eyes, light flowed, like rippling streams of light, shining resplendently. It was a smile that could topple a city. However, when City Lord Lu and the two Executive Elders saw this, they felt their chests tighten. Ahem, after our discussion, we feel that Miss D's words make sense. City Lord Lu cleared his throat and announced the decision of the three of them. When the words left his mouth, the faces of the representatives of the four trading houses immediately darkened as they stared at City Lord Lu in disbelief. He was about to open his mouth to argue. Suddenly, a cold and dignified voice stopped City Lord Lu from continuing. Wait. Along with the sound, a hurricane swept through the corridor on the second floor. Following that, two figures appeared before the crowd with lightning speed. Two figures. One tall and one short. One slender like a Lolita. Chapter 36-54. The tall slender woman's cold and arrogant voice resounded. It's not easy to determine who is right and who is wrong in this matter. The air around the two of them dissipated. The figures of the two people were revealed. The two of them were dressed in lotus green robes, and their auras were very strong. Moreover, their expressions were extremely arrogant and unapproachable. City Lord Lu's expression changed slightly upon seeing the two. He secretly exchanged a glance with the Executive Elder. Then, he cupped his hands at the two of them without any change in his expression. Hall Master Ji, Hall Master Lu, why are you two here? If we don't come, are we going to allow the three of you to casually sentence the other trading houses? The lady sneered, as she shot a cold glance towards Yiqing Luo's direction. City Lord Lu had an awkward look on his face. The Executive Elder also felt a bit awkward and didn't retort. The appearance of these two people immediately controlled the rhythm of the entire situation. This boldness made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but take a few more glances. These two are the hall masters of the Ling Long Palace's branch, Xiao Yinyan explained. Generally speaking, the auction assembly is formed by the Executive Elder and the Ling Long Palace's branch hall. Then there was the city lord of the main city where the auction was held. The CEO was in charge of all the rules and procedures of the annual auction. In other words, they were the representatives of the rules and laws. As for the Ling Long Palace's branch hall, it is responsible for the safety and order of the auction. In other words, one was civil and the other was military. This was because the Ling Long Palace was a place to nurture the Empyrean fairy. It was a mysterious existence. The people from the Ling Long Palace's branch were in charge of the safety and order of the auction. Basically, no one dared to play tricks in the auction. In the past, there had been cases of people killing and robbing people before and after the auction. All of them were chased to the ends of the world by the Ling Long Palace's branch hall, and in the end, they died without a complete corpse. After listening to Xiao Yinyan's explanation, Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. Linglong Palace, the palace of Linglong that nurtured Xiao Yulu. This meant that they had come with ill intentions. Moreover, it could be seen. Whether it was City Lord Lu or the executive elder. When facing the two hall masters of the two halls, Zhang Xian's expression changed. His arrogance was suppressed to a very low level. It was as if he was afraid of something. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she directly asked the doubt in her heart. Xiao Yinyan glanced in the direction of the hall master and executive elder and said, "They're afraid of the Linglong Palace. A place that could cultivate the Empyrean fairy." Naturally, it was not an ordinary place. When the people of the Earth Domain faced the Linglong Palace, the Earth Domain's people had no choice. It was like facing the four great sects of the Nirvana realm. A kind of fear and respect had been born in his heart. Looks like my pretentious act is going to fail. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and said with a chuckle. Xiao Yinyan's expression was still very calm. You don't seem to be panicking. Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. I'm in the right, naturally I won't panic. While the two were talking, those two hall masters had already sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe. The eyes of the lowly hall master Lu were filled with disdain and mockery. She ridiculed as her red lips curled upwards, as her lively and adorable big eyes sparkled with a chilly luster. The treasure trading house had seriously injured the representatives of the other four trading houses, and even fell into a coma. Don't tell me that the person in charge of the treasure trading house doesn't intend to say anything? Pei Sheng was locked onto by hall master Lu's gaze. His entire person froze on the spot. Chapter 3655. I'm asking about the person in charge of treasure gathering, are you? Hall Master Lu glanced sideways at Yi Qing Luo as he spoke in an arrogant tone. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Was he trying to intimidate her by showing off his power? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows but didn't say another word. She took a look at Pei Sheng as she elbowed him. Pei Sheng's breathing halted as sweat started to form on his forehead. Why? The person in charge of treasure gathering has nothing to say? Since that's the case, that means he has tacitly agreed to the act of beating up the other four representatives till they fainted. Hall Master Lu's tone suddenly rose. That adorable Lolita face was filled with a dark aura. The sweat on Pei Sheng's forehead continued to flow down his face and neck. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Was this Hall Master Lu someone whom Xiao Yulu asked for help? Intentionally releasing his might. Giving Pei Sheng an invisible pressure. Causing Pei Sheng to be unable to maintain his consciousness. Just to make Pei Sheng admit his own crime? And then, to make use of this as a pretext? Pei Sheng's entire body tensed up as he was drenched in cold sweat, staining his robe. Suddenly, Xiao Yinyan walked up and raised his hand, placing it on Pei Sheng's shoulder. Pei Sheng's body trembled slightly as though he was controlled by some kind of power. That pair of eyes which had widened in fear, slowly regained its clarity and vigor. Person in charge of treasure gathering? Hall Master Lu frowned as he looked at Xiao Yinyan. Probably because Xiao Yinyan was the eldest young master of the Qiao family. But he didn't say anything more. Pei Sheng raised his head abruptly as he looked straight at Hall Master Lu. His voice was slightly trembling but he was still very clear. Regarding what Hall Master said, I have an objection. Hall Master Lu's expression congealed slightly as he looked in surprise at Pei Sheng who had struggled free from her might, asking, what objection do you have? Pei Sheng's face trembled slightly as his eyelashes trembled violently. Apparently, he was feeling nervous. However, he still tried his best to maintain a calm tone as he replied, Hall Master, you should be very clear about the strength of the treasures exchange house over the past 5 years. This is my last chance, as well as my only chance. I won't be foolish enough to break the rules of the auction and cause myself to lose my only chance. You mean, you didn't hit them? Hall Master Lu sneered. Pei Sheng shook his head. No, I did. Since you've made a move, you've broken the rules of the auction. Hall Master Lu looked at the executive elder and said, since the person in charge of the treasure-gathering hall has admitted to it, we'll deal with him according to the rules. Executive elder's expression changed slightly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo apprehensively. Wait. Pei Sheng interrupted Hall Master Lu, I admit that I made a move, but it's not my fault. I don't think I should bear the responsibility. He didn't wait for Hall Chief Lu to refute and continued, as I said before, this is my only chance. I can't take the initiative to pick a fight. Even if I didn't take the initiative to provoke you, you still made a move on me. Pavilion Master Lu insisted on this point. Pei Sheng wanted to say something. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind brushed past him. A white shadow flew out. Powerful profound qi burst out from his body. His hands, which were full of scars, were like sharp claws, and they went straight for Hall Master Lu's face. Hall Master Lu's expression turned grave as he quickly retreated. Hall Master Ji, who was watching from the side, immediately rushed forward and joined forces with Hall Master Lu to counterattack. Both of their expressions were severe as their palms struck downwards. The palm wind brushed past that white shadow. Chapter 36-56. The sudden turn of events caused everyone's attention to be focused on him. Hence, everyone saw a slovenly-looking old man lying on the ground, clutching his stomach and rolling left and right. He kept saying, "I-O-Yo, murder." Bullying an old man. Youngsters nowadays don't know how to respect the old and love the young. A few black lines appeared on the foreheads of the crowd when they heard that. Because, this old man who was lying on the ground, it was the senior from the Underworld Palace. How could the senior from the Underworld Palace be sent flying by the Linglong Hall Master? And he was lying on the ground so weakly? Wasn't this too fantastical? That was what everyone was thinking. The two Hall Masters, who were originally filled with arrogance, also thought so. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale as his bright and adorable eyes widened. You're talking nonsense. We didn't hit you at all. Even if it was just the wind from our palms, it's not possible to hit your stomach. Old Lai, who was lying on the ground moaning, suddenly paused and gave a faint "oh." Following that, his hand moved to his chest. He continued to flop on the ground. "I-O, the Linglong Hall Master is hitting someone at the auction. Beating an old man like me who has no one to rely on and no strength to even truss a chicken. You're trying to take my life. Everyone. City Lord Lu and Executive Elder. The two Linglong Hall Masters. If this old man didn't do it on purpose, they would eat sh*t live. But no matter what everyone thought in their hearts. Old Lai insisted that the Hall Master was the one who hurt him. His entire body was in pain. He was on the verge of death. This hubbub. Not only the people on the second floor crowded around. Those who were attending the auction on the first floor all crowded over. At this moment, the faces of the two Hall Masters were dark and extremely ugly. Hearing the discussions of those onlookers who didn't know the truth, they gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. They couldn't wait to strike this old man who was creating trouble in front of them. The scene was chaotic. Xiao Yinyan's brows were filled with a smile. This move of yours is really vicious. Giving him a taste of his own medicine. Yi Qing Luo replied calmly. He asked Lao Lai to put on a show. Even the Linglong Palace's Hall Master would have some misgivings. Because Old Lai represented the Hell Sect. It didn't matter if Old Lai was lying on the ground or not. Those were the hall masters of the Ling Long Palace, the ones who had injured the people of the Underworld Palace. If news of this were to spread to the Underworld Palace, those lunatics from the Underworld Palace were definitely going to cause a huge commotion. Everyone was absolutely convinced. The Underworld Palace didn't care what kind of place the Ling Long Palace was. Did they have the strength to fight against Ling Long Palace? In any case, I'll just kill him first. No one could keep up with the Underworld Palace's train of thought. Therefore, the two hall masters of the Ling Long Palace knew that Old Lai was pretending. However, he still did not dare to act rashly. Listening to the surrounding people pointing and gossiping, Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. He said in exasperation, "The Underworld Palace's people were injured because he attacked first. I was just defending myself. Besides, we're talking about the person in charge of Treasure's assembly right now. Don't try to confuse us." She tried hard to change the topic. However, he was interrupted by a contemptuous sneer. Hall Master Lu's gaze was sinister as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw that young lady who was standing in front of Pei Sheng slowly walking towards Old Lai. Chapter 36-57. No matter if Old Lai made the first move, but it's a fact that you injured him. Yi Qing Luo was supporting Old Lai as she raised her head, staring coldly at Hall Master Lu. The moment she said that, Hall Master Lu's face turned green and red. This slut was repeating the words that she had said to Pei Sheng earlier on back onto her. Not waiting for Hall Master Lu to speak, the young lady curled her pink lips again, slightly arching her brows, filled with contempt and disdain. As the person in charge of the auction, the executive, isn't it a bigger mistake to break the law knowingly? She paused slightly and continued, "Of course, I'm not trying to confuse the public. Just like what Hall Master Lu said to Ah Sheng earlier, no matter what the reason is, Ah Sheng is in the wrong since he made the first move." Then why is Hall Master Lu so stubbornly arguing that it was Old Lai who made the first move? It was only then that Hall Master Lu realized what it felt like to be sullen. Refute? How was she going to refute? If she retorted, wouldn't that be slapping her own mouth? If she didn't refute, did she really have to admit that she was in the wrong for injuring Hell Palace's people? Not to mention that after admitting it, she would slap her own mouth. Just say that she admitted to injuring Hell Palace's people. That would be forming a feud with Hell Palace's people. This was the first time Hall Master Lu felt so sullen. Hall Master Ji frowned arrogantly, looking at the rhythm which was originally in her grasp being easily taken away by a young lady. The gaze she shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with probing. Hall Master Lu cast a pleading look. Hall Master Ji's brows creased even tighter. But looking at the young lady's calm face, she still took a step forward. Her tone was cold, full of a royal elder sister's demeanor. "This matter, the auction will give Hell Palace's senior an explanation, but the matter of treasure gathering's person in charge injuring someone, there must be an explanation." While Hall Master Ji was saying this, her gaze was completely on Yi Qing Luo. The chilliness in her eyes seemed to be threatening Yi Qing Luo. Facing the incoming pressure, Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change as her lips curled into a faint arc. Her voice was calm. "Hall Master Ji is right, treasure gathering indeed needs an explanation." Yi Qing Luo raised her chin slightly. Boundless aura flames shot out from all directions. Carrying with it a boundless might, it corroded Hall Master Ji and Hall Master Lu. Yi Qing Luo totally did not restrain her imposing manner. His gaze was like a burning torch as he stared at the two Hall Masters, and he said word by word, "It's common knowledge that Ah Sheng's strength is weak, and he's just an ordinary profounder. And, through the discussions of the surrounding people, I understand some things." She raised her hand and pointed to the front, in the direction of the representatives of the 4 trading houses. Although they are all hedonistic sons of rich families, their strength is not bad under the nurturing of the forces behind them. At least, they are above Ah Sheng. Yiqing Luo's tone abruptly rose as her tone became heavier, for cultivators who have been groomed, against a weak Ah Sheng who had never cultivated since 5 years ago. She paused for a moment and fixed her gaze on the Hall Master. Please tell me, Hall Masters, how did Ah Sheng defeat the 4 of them by himself? Furthermore, the 4 of them had no chance to retaliate. Following Yiqing Luo's interrogation, the people around all sucked in a breath of cold air. What she said was simply too logical. No matter who it was, they were unable to believe it. Chapter 36-58. If there was no plan behind this, no premeditated. They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Wait a minute, plan? Premeditated? Why? To design a trading house which had been at the bottom of the auction for 4 consecutive years? This stance was obviously to make use of the person in charge of the treasure-gathering trading house to injure the representatives of the other 4 trading houses, to cancel the treasure-gathering's qualification to participate in the auction. Not only to cancel the auction's qualification, but also to offend the 4 top 10 trading houses. Even if the treasure-gathering was removed from the auction, that would also incur the revenge of the 4 trading houses. He was planning on killing Zhu Bao, not giving Zhu Bao the slightest chance of survival. Who on earth had such a huge enmity with the treasure gathering? This answer surfaced in everyone's mind. But, no one dared to say out that person's name. When Yiqing Luo raised this doubt, the expressions of the 2 hall masters froze on their faces. Their faces were dead silent and pitch black. There was no need to guess. The person who wanted to put the treasure gathering to death, other than Xiao Yulu, there was no second person. Their own minds followed Yiqing Luo's words, as Xiao Yulu's figure surfaced. Not to mention the surrounding crowd. The 2 hall masters exchanged glances with one another, being stirred up by Yiqing Luo. Their motive had become extremely tricky. And at this moment, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let it go. Her eyes were calm, as her smile was faint. The flame around her was slightly still. Previously Ah Sheng also said that this is the treasure gathering's one and only chance. Who in the entire without embroiling city doesn't know that Ah Sheng treats the treasure gathering as his own life? Who would use their own life as a joke? Speaking to this point, Yiqing Luo intentionally stopped talking. A pair of originally indifferent eyes suddenly became as sharp as a blade, as it swept across the surrounding crowd. Wherever her gaze landed, it was as if she was covered by ice. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Finally, the young lady's gaze fixed on the hall master. It was at that moment the young lady's flame suddenly exploded. An invisible pressure densely spread in the air. She looked at the hall master, speaking word by word. I seriously suspect that someone wants to make use of this opportunity to frame the treasure gathering, to scheme against it. As a partner of treasure gathering, I raise an objection to the auction. I hope that the auction can give treasure gathering an explanation. The girl's voice was sonorous and forceful. It also had an irresistible charm. It was extremely shocking. Even the 2 hall masters were stunned by Yiqing Luo until their pupils went into a daze as they stood rooted to the ground. After a long while, Hall Master Ji finally regained his senses and said, Everything you've said is just your guess. The injuries on the representatives of the 4 trading firms can't be faked. Little girl, do you mean, the fact that I was injured by the 2 of you was fake? Lao Lai, who was lying on the ground, felt unbalanced. He abruptly sat up straight and pressed his hand on his chest as he coldly snorted and said, I've already made my intentions clear. Since you insist on using this matter to make things difficult for that kid Pei Sheng, then I'll make things difficult for you. I'd like to see what kind of despicable abilities you people from Ling Long Palace Hall have. He had to admit it. Old Lie's maneuver was simply amazing. This protectiveness was simply too amazing. Lao Lie's words successfully made the two hall masters' faces turn livid. At this moment, the two of them could be said to be riding a tiger, unable to back down. Chapter 36:59. Not only would Pei Sheng not be punished according to the original plan. They would also bear the burden of, Linglong Palace was afraid of the Underworld Palace. If such words were spread out, Linglong Palace would never let them off. However, if they really disregarded Old Lie's reputation and insisted on using Pei Sheng's injury incident as a pretext to make a fuss, that would be openly challenging the Underworld Palace. When the Underworld Palace really went crazy and rushed to Linglong Palace to make a scene, the two of them would be the ones to bear the blame. It was more likely that Linglong Palace would even want to appease the Underworld Palace. They would directly hand the two of them over. It was not right to advance or retreat. Hall Master Lu felt like vomiting blood. She kept looking at Castellan Lu and the executive elder. However, those people all averted their gazes, deliberately avoiding eye contact with her. Her bright eyes flickered. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the tall figure of Hall Master Ji. A trace of treachery flashed in her eyes. She was about to speak. The person beside him suddenly raised his voice, interrupting Hall Master Lu's words before he could speak. Rules are rules. No one can violate the rules of the auction. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. If everyone was like you, fighting in the trading hall because of a disagreement, wouldn't the auction be in a mess? Hall Master Ji looked impartial and said solemnly, no matter what the person in charge of the auction house did, whether it was a scheme or a trap, now, he has to accept the punishment for injuring someone. She paused and suddenly raised her hand to grab Hall Master Lu, who was as petite as a Lolita. Hall Master Lu did not have time to react. Her arms were already grabbed by Hall Master Ji. She couldn't even break free from his grip. Hall Master Lu's expression was cold. Of course, as the person in charge of the auction, it is a fact that Hall Master Lu injured someone. Therefore, Hall Master Lu will also punish him according to the rules of the auction. You. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. She turned her head and glared at Hall Master Ji. However, Hall Master Ji did not seem to notice her gaze at all. Instead, he looked at Castellan Lu and the executive elder with a straight face and said, "How about we settle this matter this way?" Everyone was shocked. He really didn't expect that. Hall Master Ji was willing to sacrifice his comrade's life. He was determined to get Pei Sheng off the stage. Just how big of a grudge was this? When Yiqing Luo heard Hall Master Ji's words, her brows sunk slightly. She hadn't expected that either. To think that Hall Master Ji would resort to such a self-harming method to get Pei Sheng to leave the auction. He had made up his mind. Not letting her win the honor of the best trading house for treasure-gathering auction. This time, this is going to be difficult. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as her mind spun quickly. At this moment, suddenly, the door of a private room that had been tightly shut not far away slowly opened. A man dressed in black as a dark guard slowly walked through the crowd and walked over. The crowd was initially very impatient because of the pushing and shoving. But as soon as he saw the black-clothed hidden guard, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them suppressed all their emotions in their hearts. They obediently made way for the black-clothed secret guard to pass. The black-clothed shadow guard walked up to the two hall masters. The discussions in the surroundings came to an abrupt halt. The entire corridor on the second floor fell into silence. Chapter 3660. When the black-clothed secret guard spoke, Yiqing Luo could obviously hear a series of breaths being sucked in. Even Hall Master Ji's face darkened and darkened. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He couldn't understand why this black-clothed hidden guard would come out to help the treasure-gathering trading house. Those from the Scarlet Clear Pavilion, Xiao Yinyan couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the black-clothed hidden guard. He squinted his eyes as his gaze slowly shifted onto Yiqing Luo. He felt that the people from the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion did not appear to help the treasure-gathering exchange house. It was because of Luo. It was an intuition. However, why would Luo be in contact with people from the Red Clearness Pavilion? Red Clear Pavilion? Yiqing Luo heard Xiao Yinyan's mutter and looked over in puzzlement. Xiao Yinyan was taken aback. You don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Yiqing Luo hesitated for a moment. I don't really listen to the news from the outside world. She was someone who had just come to the upper realm from the Nirvana realm not too long ago. She didn't know anything about the famous people in the Earth realm. It was Elder Wen Tsang. Old man Tsang, who had been asleep for many years, probably wouldn't understand either. Xiao Yinyan shifted a few steps closer to Yiqing Luo. The two hall masters' gazes shifted onto Yiqing Luo. His eyes were surging with endless anger. But he didn't dare to flare up. Xiao Yinyan stared at him and said in a low voice, "The Red Clear Pavilion is a mysterious force in the upper realm. They travel to various places in the upper realm, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Rumor has it that Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master is someone from the heaven realm and his strength is extraordinary." A mysterious force? A mysterious force created by the people of Heaven Realm. It was no wonder that when the citizens saw the black-clothed shadow guards, they were terrified. They all became respectful and courteous, not daring to utter a single word. They were all afraid of the power of the Red Clear Pavilion. However, with the strength of the Heaven Realm, why would they appear and speak up for Zhu Bao? You really don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Xiao Yinyan saw Yiqing Luo's enlightened expression, as he was astonished. Yiqing Luo shook her head, although it sounds very powerful, but I really don't know. Xiao Yinyan narrowed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Surely you don't think that the reason why the Red Clear Pavilion spoke up for the Treasures Exchange Hall, is because of me? I'm not assuming. Xiao Yinyan glanced at her. I'm sure. Yiqing Luo. She obviously had a physique that attracted hatred wherever she went. It wasn't a physique that could attract people's liking and make people help them. While they were talking, Hall Master Ji had already loosened his grip on Hall Master Lu. Hall Master Ji's face darkened. Why is the Pavilion Master here? This is not something you can ask. The black-clothed shadow guard said coldly. Hall Master Ji's face turned ashen when he was rebuked in front of everyone. He averted his gaze in embarrassment. Hall Master Lu sneered as he glanced at Hall Master Ji. He was still holding a grudge against Hall Master Ji for what she had done to him earlier. Hall Master Lu sneered, "What a pity. Lord Pavilion Master wanted to protect the treasures trading house, but your plans have all failed. We're working together." Hall Master Ji clenched his fists and glared at Zhang Xian angrily. "Do you think you're any better than me?" "I'm happy to see you unhappy," Hall Master Lu said disapprovingly. "You." Just as the two Hall Masters were about to start a fight, City Lord Lu immediately came out to smooth things over. All right. Since the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master has personally testified for the Treasures Exchange Hall, that means that this matter is indeed not the Treasures Exchange Hall's fault. Chapter 3661. How could this be? The representatives of the four trading houses, who were supporting their young masters, immediately turned pale. This is clearly him. How could you? They couldn't even speak clearly. Obviously, they were very angry. City Lord Lu didn't wait for them to finish speaking and had already interrupted them sternly. Miss D is right, the young masters of these four trading houses used the rules of the auction to frame other trading houses. This kind of behavior is really too despicable. As the organizer, we will definitely give the treasure gathering an explanation. The executive elder also followed. This attitude made the representatives of the 4 trading houses so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. There was also the trading house that was dissatisfied and wanted to refute. However, it was stopped by the side of the trading house that was watching the show. Forget it, the Red Clear Court has already stepped in. It is already the best result that they didn't take your lives. You should be content, don't make your situation even more ugly. The face of the representative of the trading house was flushed red. City Lord Lu coughed lightly, in case of accidents, hurriedly called over the people of the 4 trading houses and directly forcibly took them downstairs. No matter how the 4 trading houses begged for mercy, no one cared. Until the representatives of the 4 trading houses were directly thrown out of the auction in front of everyone's eyes. For a moment, they suffered all kinds of pointing and criticism from the citizens that came and went. Smelly old man, let me tell you. If you don't help me get justice today, I will definitely ask my father to kick you out of the trading house. When had the young masters who were beaten suffered such grievances? They instantly felt that they had lost face and started to shout. The representatives of the few trading houses looked at their young masters whose face was red and swollen like a pig's head. They really wanted to punch him. You dare to be arrogant now? Why is it that when you were inside, you were like a turtle with its head in its shell and didn't say a word? Of all people, you had to provoke the treasure-gathering trading house that has already climbed up the tree. You still have the face to blame us? Don't you have any eyesight? The treasure-gathering trading house was able to climb up after being at the bottom for as long as 4 years, and even let the auction house arrange the treasure-gathering on the 2nd floor, you should know clearly. If it didn't have this ability, would it be arranged on the 2nd floor? You still have the face to yell at us? Think about how you're going to explain this to boss and the people behind you when you get back. The representatives were also fuming with rage. He was having a headache after being messed around by these few young masters. Young Master Wang held onto his broken hand and felt wronged. We didn't do it on purpose. It's all because of that woman. If we had known that treasure gathering had such a strong backer, we wouldn't have been bewitched by that woman. That woman is too ruthless. To think that she's the Empyrean fairy of Without Embroiling City. Bah! The 3 young masters, who were still conscious, ridiculed each other. The representatives understood the deeper meaning behind his words, and their expressions froze. What woman? What Empyrean fairy? It's the Empyrean fairy of Without Embroiling City, that Princess Yulu. She told us where the treasure-gathering hall is located on the 2nd floor and intentionally provoked us to go over and greet her. The representatives looked at each other. The Empyrean fairy of Without Embroiling City. Their eyes lit up, and they quickly walked toward the auction. We want to see City Lord Lu. We have something to say. At this moment, the people on the 2nd floor had no idea what was happening below. Chapter 3662. Yiqing Luo speechlessly looked at the fawning City Lord Lu. The moment the people from Red Clear Pavilion appeared, everyone felt that this Red Clear Pavilion was here for her. Di Fu, cough, Miss D. That old lie who was originally injured suddenly jumped up from the ground and rushed to Yiqing Luo's side. When did you hook up with the people from Red Clear Pavilion? You obviously agreed to let me help you. How could I let that Red Clear Pavilion snatch my limelight? Old Lie's face was filled with unwillingness as he stared resentfully at the black-robed guard. Yiqing Luo once again. Damn it! She really didn't know anyone from Red Clear Pavilion. And had nothing to do with people from Heaven Realm. No, that's not right. Jin Zi was also considered as someone from Heaven Realm. But Jin Zi, that Huangfu family's man. When he saw her, he probably couldn't wait to find trouble with her. It was impossible for him to use the name of Red Clear Pavilion to help. So a large group of people thought that Red Clear Pavilion appeared because of her. What kind of joke was this? Just at this moment, the black-clothed dark team guard, whom Old Lai had glared at with hatred, walked toward them step by step. Every step he took, Yi Qing Luo's brows creased slightly. Old Lai directly stood in front of her and opened up his arms, blocking her behind his back. Following that, he put on a protective expression. People from Red Clear Pavilion, this is Hell Palace's VIP, don't even think of snatching. However, his valiant and high-spirited declaration of sovereignty didn't make the black-robed guard's expression waver at all. The black-robed guard only stood in front of Old Lai. His vision went past Old Lai and looked towards Yi Qing Luo. "Miss, my master invites you over." Everyone stared at the black-robed guard in astonishment and looked at Yi Qing Luo. Everyone's faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Whereas Qiao Yinyan, Pei Sheng and Old Man Tsang all had an expression of, indeed. They were here for Ah Luo. Yi Qing Luo. Motherf *****. Red Clear Pavilion's target, was really for her. Mississippi, the black-robed guard called out in a heavy tone. Yi Qing Luo gathered her thoughts and frowned at him. "Who is your master?" It didn't take long for her to reach the Earth domain. This Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master, who was known as a mysterious force, actually wanted to see her. This action of speaking up for the treasures trading firm. Was it a good deed or a bad deed? The black-clothed secret guard said indifferently, "You will know once you follow me in." Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. "If you don't explain clearly, I'm just a young lady with no strength to truss a chicken, with a devastatingly beautiful face. If I follow you like this, what should I do if your master's bestial nature flares up?" As she spoke, she waved her hand. I'm not going. The onlookers, too weak to even strangle a chicken? Girl, are you sure you understand the true meaning of this word? Furthermore, if the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion really took a fancy to you and his bestial nature was unleashed, wouldn't that be your good fortune? Wasn't it enough to have the master of the Red Clarity Pavilion as his backing? The surrounding spectators all wished that they could enter the eyes of the Scarlet Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. The black-robed secret guard was apparently agitated by Yi Qing Luo's shameless words. That expressionless face twitched a little. Following that, his cold eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo as he spoke calmly. "Master said, he guessed that you would say that, so he asked me to pass on a message to you." The crowd pricked up their ears. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. Chapter 3663. I, go. Yi Qing Luo's gaze turned cold as she raised her tone, interrupting the black-robed guard's words. "Ah Luo?" Xiao Yinyan and Pei Sheng looked worriedly at the black-robed guard and looked at Yi Qing Luo. They totally didn't understand the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. Leaving Ah Luo alone to meet that mysterious man. How could they be at ease? Old Lai, who was ignored by the black-robed guard, had an ugly expression. "Who is your pavilion master? How dare you snatch someone from me? I'm telling you, with me here today, none of you can." Old Lai. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and placed it on Old Lai's shoulder. She patted lightly on Old Lai's shoulder. No matter, his master might be an old acquaintance. The name that the black-clothed secret guard had called out was Miss Yi. In other words, the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master knew her real identity. Most importantly, although the black-robed guard's expression was cold, his attitude towards her wasn't considered good. But she could tell. The other party didn't have any murderous intent. Moreover, the other party had appeared and helped her earlier. She was also curious who the other party was. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's insistence, the few of them had a solemn expression as they looked at each other for a moment. Old Lai then put on an abandoned expression as he gave a heavy harumph. He strode towards the previous cabin and entered. City Lord Lu immediately tried to smooth things over with a smile. The auction is about to start, please don't take this episode to heart. Following that, he smiled towards Pei Sheng's direction. Young Master Qiao, Boss Pei, both of you return to your cabin to rest for a while. I guarantee that no one else will disturb the treasure-gathering cabin. There was no need for his guarantee at all. The Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master had personally invited Di Luo. Who else would take things too hard to find trouble with the treasure gathering? Under City Lord Lu and the executive elder's insistent request, the VIPs on the second floor also returned to their own cabins. But the topic of discussion was no longer about the auction, what good items would be put up for auction in the auction. But it was about Di Luo's identity, as well as the relationship between Di Luo and the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. On the other side, Yiqing Luo followed the black-robed guard and stopped at the entrance of the cabin. The black-clothed secret guard stopped in his tracks. He had no intention of entering. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the black-robed secret guard as she extended her perception towards the interior of the house. The bodyguard in black glanced at her and said indifferently, I'll be waiting for you inside. Yiqing Luo's perception swept around. He didn't sense anyone's aura in the room. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She couldn't sense anything with her senses. Or, there was really nothing inside. Either that or the person in the room was more powerful than her. Moreover, it was higher than her profound rank by at least 3 ranks. Although, in the Earth realm, there were countless people who had higher profound ranks than her. But, with her perception, even when facing Qiao Yulu, who had used external power to break through to the divine profound realm, she was still able to react. Her heart froze up tightly. Miss Yi, if you're not willing to go in, I don't mind helping you. The black-robed secret guard saw Yiqing Luo not taking any action and opened his mouth to urge. True enough. This person knew her true identity. She raised her hand and placed it on the door handle. But she didn't push the door open. Instead she raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. Your master, who exactly is he? Chapter 3664. Yiqing Luo hadn't had the chance to probe further. Suddenly, the room door creaked open automatically. Yiqing Luo's hand which was on the door handle sank downwards. Her body unconsciously staggered forward. Her feet hit the door sill. Her entire body fell downwards. F****k. Yiqing Luo cursed in her heart. How unlucky could she be? She was about to take a deep breath to stabilize her body which was about to kiss the earth. She hadn't had the time to react. She only felt a familiar smell coming from her nostrils. A simple yet elegant plum fragrance lingered in her nostrils. A pair of thick arms steadily caught her. Yiqing Luo froze. This aura was familiar. Almost a whiff. Yiqing Luo was able to ascertain the other party's identity. But she couldn't understand. Why would he appear here? Yiqing Luo frowned as she struggled to break free from the wrist which was restraining her arm. But that arm which was supporting her suddenly increased the strength of his hands. Her delicate body was locked tightly in the other party's arms. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted even tighter. She looked up angrily. The moment she looked up, she met a pair of deep as the abyss, with a bottomless black pupils. That pair of eyes were extremely dark and gloomy. It was quiet and serene, without the slightest bit of brilliance. Just staring fixedly at Yiqing Luo. There was a trace of coldness in his eyes. However, if one were to look closely, one would be able to see deep emotions in the depths of those black eyes. Yiqing Luo's delicate body stiffened as her pink lips pursed slightly. Let go. She hugged the man at such a close distance. It made Yiqing Luo feel extremely uncomfortable. Her body was repulsed by any intimate touch from the opposite sex other than Dmo Xian. I won't let go. The man opened his mouth, his voice was deep and his pair of dark eyes became increasingly deep. I miss you very much. Even when I see you, I can't bear to let go. Following his words, he even forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms. Both arms hugged the young lady's delicate body tightly, as though he wanted to taint the young lady's body with his scent. That plum fragrance, although simple yet elegant. But Yiqing Luo couldn't stand it. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she grabbed his hand that was restraining her. Zhu Wuxin, let go of me. The person in front of him, it was none other than Zhu Wuxin. Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo had not expected that she would be able to meet Zhu Wuxian when she reached the earth boundary. Previously, she had indeed guessed Zhu Wuxin's identity. He was definitely not just the castle lord of Death God Castle in the lower realm, or the Chu Wuxin who was respectfully addressed as Young Master Zhu. However, she didn't expect Chu Wuxin to be such a famous figure in the upper three realms. Since he was a mysterious force in the upper realm, and it was said that he was from the heaven realm. Why did he have to go to the lower world to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? Moreover, since Zhu Wuxin was someone from the upper realm, it was impossible for him to do so. In that case, what happened when Zhu Wuxin and the original owner of this body decided on a relationship over 10 years ago? When Zhu Wuxin heard her soft rebuke, he laughed softly. A faint smile bloomed on that cold and contoured face. He smiled, Yiqing Luo, I finally heard you calling my name, I miss you so much. Yiqing Luo's face didn't show any joy of reuniting with an old friend. She pursed her lips tightly as her tone was displeased. If you want to reminisce about the past, let go of me now. Otherwise, if you continue to maintain this position, then there's nothing for us to talk about. Chapter 3665. Yiqing Luo, who had left Zhu Wuxian's embrace, moved and immediately distanced herself from Zhu Wuxian by 5 steps. She stood at the other corner of the room as she looked at him warily. Why are you here? Zhu Wuxian was still smiling. It made his handsome face, which was cold and stiff, look much gentler in contrast. Especially that pair of deep black eyes, it was tainted with a faint warmth. This was a smile from the bottom of his heart. His vision had always been following Yiqing Luo. As though he was looking at his own treasure, cherishing and deep. You're here, so I'm here. Words filled with deep emotions. But it made Yiqing Luo tremble. You followed me? No. Zhu Wuxian replied straightforwardly. Yiqing Luo didn't let her guard down. Then how did you know that I'm here? Zhu Wuxian remained silent for a moment as the emotions in his eyes had some changes. The only thing that didn't change was that he kept staring at Yiqing Luo, not willing to shift his gaze away. I know that you're in the earth boundary, so I followed you here. He paused. When I heard the name Di Luo, I knew. It must be you. So here I am. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wuxian for some time. Finally, she retracted her vigilant gaze. Based on Zhu Wuxian's character, he shouldn't be lying. Why did you come here to look for me? Or could it be that the people from Secluded Palace are also in the earth boundary? Yiqing Luo sat on the chair by the side as she frowned slightly. She recalled the black-robed men who had set up the soul-devouring array and made use of Qiao Yulu to kill her. Those black-robed men seemed to want her soul? She had been guessing. Could those black-robed men be from Secluded Palace? Now that she saw Zhu Wuxian, Yiqing Luo was even more suspicious of those black-robed men's identities. I've already cancelled the collaboration with Secluded Palace. Zhu Wuxian's eyes were burning as his dark eyes were filled with cloying gentleness. Yiqing Luo, secluded palace hurt you, so I can't help them anymore. Hurt me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. It seems that when we were in Nirvana realm, secluded palace had done quite a number of things to hurt me. Zhu Wu Xian's expression finally showed some changes. He frowned. I'm sorry. This baffling apology made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. Then, he understood the meaning behind Zhu Wuxin's apology. He was apologizing for working with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yiqing Luo met his gaze calmly and indifferently. There's no need to apologize for what has already happened. Moreover, this indeed has nothing much to do with you. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxin frowned. I don't like the look in your eyes, and I don't like you excluding me. Yiqing Luo stood up. Thank you for your help earlier. I will return this favor to you if there's a chance. As she spoke, she walked towards the door. The auction is about to begin. I'll head back to treasure gathering first. Yiqing Luo. Her feet had yet to move. Zhu Wuxin's low and hoarse voice came from behind. His voice was very soft, and there was a hint of hurt in it. An old friend reuniting in an old place. Must you use this kind of attitude to face me? I'm helping you, not because I want a favor from you. A young man who had always been indifferent. At this moment, he uttered a long string of words. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back and couldn't see her expression clearly. Chapter 3666. The more they got involved, it would only make Zhu Wu Xian's feelings for her grow deeper. She was unable to reciprocate his feelings. She shouldn't get too involved with Zhu Wu Xian. As for the favor of helping you gather treasure, no matter if you accept it or not, I will definitely return it. Yiqing Luo secretly said resolutely. Zhu Wu Xian fixed his gaze on the young lady's eyes. Looking at the young lady's pair of charming eyes, it was filled with sincerity and determination. His heart seemed to have been pierced fiercely by something. He could tell. Yiqing Luo really didn't want to get too involved with him. He could tell. Yiqing Luo was avoiding the feelings between them. His lips suddenly curled upwards as he smiled. That handsome icy cold face seemed to surface with a layer of pain emotion. Obviously knowing that she didn't want to get too involved with him. Obviously knowing that she was unable to accept his feelings. But, he couldn't control his heart. He couldn't control the urge to get closer to Yiqing Luo. Even if he was hated. At least, in her heart, there was still a place for him. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes suddenly flashed. His figure followed closely and got closer to Yiqing Luo. The sudden plum fragrance assaulted her senses. Yiqing Luo staggered a step backwards. But her wrist was caught by Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. Zhu Wu Xian's grip became even tighter. His slender fingers wrapped tightly around her wrist. Beneath his eyes, there was a glint which hid a deep meaning which no one could see clearly. When Yiqing Luo met his eyes, she was stunned by his eyes which were as deep as the sea. You said, you want to return the favor, right? Zhu Wu Xian's voice was very low and filled with magnetism. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she slightly struggled against his hand and her pink lips pursed slightly, yes. Instead, Zhu Wuxin tightened his grip on her wrist and leaned forward. Yiqing Luo fell into Zhu Wu Xian's arms. Just as she was about to struggle, a man's low and hoarse voice floated from above her head, then. The favor I want you to return is to accompany me during the auction. Yiqing Luo's hands were placed on his chest, trying to pull apart the distance between them. He was about to refuse. The man's voice floated down again. I don't ask you to stay by my side. I just want to watch you during the auction. Once the auction is over, I will leave the Earth domain. His voice sounded a little lonely. Just listening to it made one's heart ache. It's just a small request. Can't I? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with complicated emotions. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her heart felt heavy and uncomfortable. To be honest, she did not dislike Zhu Wuxin. She also admired his persistence in love. Even if it was just his stubbornness and not love. But he still insisted that he liked her heart. If not for Zhu Wuxin's stubbornness towards her. Perhaps, they could really become good friends. Listening to the man's low voice, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's heart wasn't feeling good at all. She sighed. Okay, I promise you. Zhu Wuxin loosened his arms around her, his eyes filled with a faint smile. Thank you. Yiqing Luo looked at him with a complicated expression. The usually cold young man, in front of her, was like a kid who had stolen candy. It was impossible to say that her heart wasn't touched. Of course, this touch didn't mean that she was touched by his feelings. Only. Her heart ached a little. Her heart ached for his persistence towards the original owner. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.